Bristol Motor Speedway, the last great coliseum, the world's fastest half mile, whatever name you want to call this 0.5 mile oval located in Bristol, Tennessee. It is still prestigious as a short track in NASCAR history, and the best of the 4 Wide Racing Series are ready to get after it all the way to the start-finish line and the checkered flag. Good evening and welcome to race number 5 of the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series Season 3 schedule, as we bring it right here live from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway, as we bring you coverage right here on MaxSpeedTV. So happy to have you join us. We're alongside Francisco Bacchial atop, obviously, Bristol Motor Speedway, and of course you can see the screen all the way in the middle. My name is Kenneth Bueno. Francisco, we have had a very interesting season. We've only had 2 different race winners. We had Colin Forster sweep the first 3, and then we had Adam Alshire come out of nowhere to win the Daytona race last week. But we come to Bristol, same deal like the ARCA race last night. It's going to be wild, it's going to be intense, but this time it's going to be a lot more slick.
Yep, we're going to be under the daylight here at the Bristol Motor Speedway, which means that the concrete we have here is going to be very hot. It's going to be very slick for these drivers to go around this racetrack, and it's one of the rare times really that we're at the Bristol Motor Speedway under the daylight and not for the dirt. So it's definitely going to be something different for a change. We're going to be seeing a lot of slipping and sliding, more than normal really, because of the low downforce package that they run for the short tracks with the Cup Series. But either way, that's definitely going to make for some interesting situations with the tire wear as well, because with the higher temperatures, you're going to have a lot warmer tires, tires that wear more. And also, for the last couple of races, we've had unlimited tire sets. Tonight, we do have 9 tire sets, so they can't exactly come in every single time, but they have a pretty hefty amount there. We'll see how everyone's able to manage it. But last thing I want to touch up on here is you did mention our race winners in Colin Forster and Adam Alshire. Only rookies have won so far this season, and they've been a part of that same organization. We've talked about this, Stonk Motorsports. They were able to dominate the last 2 events, and in practice it looked like Lance Hill, another driver from there, is looking rather quick. And then right now, as we're speaking and qualifying, the top 2 positions are Colin Forster and Austin Bloom, so they're picking up right where they've left off.
Stonk Motorsports off to an electrifying start, winning, of course, all the 4 races that we've had so far throughout this entire season. But it's a very different challenge when you go down into Bristol, Tennessee, and you look to the famous Bristol Motor Speedway, of course known as the last great coliseum, the world's fastest half mile, 0.533 miles around this very short 4-turn oval, with about banking at about 22 degrees to 24 degrees in either turn. Good amount of banking on the straightaways, but it is a very short track, Francisco, going out about 14.9 seconds, 15 seconds flat. You go around that range at the quickest right now that we're seeing in qualifying, but it is so very hard to get around this racetrack both efficiently and safely, because the walls are all around you, the cars are all around you, and there is not a lot of space for error.
Yeah, it's a very tight racetrack. Nowhere to go if a wreck starts, and that was the summary of yesterday's race, if you will. There was a lot of incidents, tight congestion everywhere, and once an incident started, it would go on from there and just collect several cars. We saw a lot of drivers going airborne, believe it or not, at a track this small and this slow. It's a fast half mile, but it's not a track you normally expect to see any cars catching air with the speeds we have here. But that just goes to show the chaos we had with the ARCA cars here last night. I'm interested to see if that same aggression, that same style will transition over here to tonight's race with the Cup cars, or if maybe the drivers will recognize what happened in that race and maybe try and cool it down a little bit, try and take it a little bit easier and see what goes on in the early stages of this race before thinking or committing to a specific strategy. And with that, Kenneth, the timer on qualifying is winding down, so we'll be getting ready to bring the starting grid to the audience.
You said cool it down. It's going to be hard to cool it down when you have the sun beaming over Bristol Motor Speedway. Last season, we ran under the nighttime, so we had significantly cooler temperatures. Tonight, we will run under the afternoon in sim, so we'll have a very slick Bristol track. And of course, we'll have a very slick race car without all the downforces. All the drivers going to be lining up behind the iRacing official pace car. and that means it is our time to take a look at your starting grid, see exactly where every driver and your favorite driver will be starting here tonight for 225 laps. On the pole will be the 57 of Dean Brummett, able to steal it away in the last seconds with a 14.979. He will lead us to the green flag, with Colin Forrester, 3-time race winner this season, looking for fourth. He'll line up in second.
And your second row of the grid consists of Austin Bloom in that third position, another Stomp Motorsports machine up front, and Austin Reedy, who will line up in the fourth position. He's been fast. He's the defending winner at Bristol. Maybe he can get it done again.
Look back to row number 3. Pole sitter from last night's ARCA race, Eric Schaefer, will line up from 5th, with Craig Laumsong in the 13, trying to get his first win. Remember, he got a short track win last season. He's going to be looking for another one coming to tonight.
AJ Green's teammates to those in the top 3 starts in the 7th position. He has some work to do if he wants to join them. And Nathan Mon, a new driver here tonight, he qualifies inside the top 10.
Back to row number 5. In the edge of the top 10 is defending Championship 4 driver Kyle Benson. Will start in the 10 machine at 9th, with Logan Joyner returning to the series in the 3 car. He will be officially 10th with a 15.223.
League owner Tyler Murray qualifies in the 11th position, and just 2 thousandths behind him is Lance Hill, who was the fastest car in practice. We'll see if he's able to put that pace into good use during the race.
Back to row number 7 in P14. Tyler Warner in the 33 will start from 13th. Curtis Kelly, who had a wild ride at the ARCA race last night, he's going to be starting tonight from P14.
Your winner from last night's ARCA race, Brian Smith, starts deep in the field once again, but maybe that's the strategy for winning at Bristol. He rolls off in 15th, with CJ Munier returning this season in the 16th position. He'll start.
Back to row number 9, you have winner from last week's race at Daytona, Adam Alishire. Did not put a time, but he'll be lining up row number 9 with Brandon Banks on his outside. Look at the rest of the field as they stand. Jovi Ray returns with Tony Kivet back to the top 20. Cody Kinsey, Ken MacArthur will line up the 11th row on the racetrack, with 24th and 25th respectively, the last spots on the track belonging to Michael Newbraw and Christopher Bishop in the 42. It is going to be an insane race. We had a wild one with multiple digit cautions in the ARCA race last night. Dean Brummett was the driver who finished within the top 3. He's going to be the first to lead us to the green flag initially here. It'll be 225 laps. It is minimized from the scheduled 250 that we were supposed to run. Of course, league owners decided just a couple of days before to shorten it by 25 laps. So telemetry says we'll go about 56 minutes in sim, or in real life actually, if we continue to go green. We have a flag to flag race. Take a look at the weather. This is going to be a very big point, Francisco. 85 degrees temperature in the air, but it is the track temperature that matters the most, in the triple digits, 122, similar to what we saw at Indianapolis a couple weeks back, with winds slightly to the west at about 2 to 3 miles per hour. We have a partly cloudy day here in sim. So it is a beautiful day to go racing, but not so much if you're a driver on these Goodyear Eagles ready to get things started. Pace car will come to turn 3 and 4. It'll be the 57 and the 99, your first segment of cars to lead us to the initial green flag. Pace car's off, Dean Brummett's away, and we are green from Bristol.
And you saw right there, he chose the outside at the initial start, and right now that's going to work for him. He gets far ahead into the lead, and look, we have a spinner in the back, and it's going to be Schaefer possibly.
Schaefer around on the racetrack. I do believe we're going to get the yellow flag this time by, and indeed we do. You see him right there, driver of the 22 machine, Eric Schaefer. Remember, we mentioned him as the pole sitter last night in the ARCA race. Seems to be no damage on his Harley Davidson Chevrolet Camaro, but around early, not what you want to see. Actually, there's a major rear end damage on his car. Not sure whether he's going to elect to burn a fast repair at this stage of the race, but very early damage, and definitely not what you wanted to see on the first lap if you're Eric Schaefer in the 22. Take a look at the replay here. You'll see Schaefer actually gets hit by the, I believe that's a 48 machine of AJ Green. You see him right behind in the Plan B sales machine, so he's trying to go around 22. And then kind of blinks there, has some connectivity issues, Francisco, and then there's where I think AJ Green had nowhere to go, inevitably got into him, and that's what sent the 22 around.
Yeah, it looked like maybe he lifted, not realizing that there wasn't enough grip there for himself, and at the same time, the blink didn't help. 48 does not see him right in front of him at this point, and you see he goes right through him, so no damage to the 48, and it's not really his fault with the connection issues that we're experiencing. That's just a mixed bag, really, of several things. You can't really pinpoint it on anyone.
It was a hard thing to diagnose, but fortunately for Eric Schaefer, he does not have too much damage, and we touched on it last night, Francisco, to the point where you can get a good amount of damage here at Bristol and you can still function rather efficiently. You can still have a pretty fast race car, you can still run very well, unless maybe it's major engine damage or your engine's blown completely. That's kind of the outliers there if you're trying to run fast here at Bristol with some sort of damage. But for Eric Schaefer's case, I don't believe the rear end damage will affect him too much, apart from maybe some downforce and handling issues. But we'll just have to see, as Schaefer has just hit pit road. Tony Kivet is the only other driver to strike pit road as well. Not sure why Kivet has hit pit road, but he is already 2 laps down, so figure that maybe he just was not able to start the race. He is currently the last driver situated on the racetrack in the running order. So I think very quickly, Francisco, taking the page right off of the ARCA race last night, many of the yellows that came out, of course, in the double digits. And so far in this race, obviously the first lap is a yellow, but we could easily see the trend take over in this race, much like it did last night.
And it could definitely be the trend of the season, really, because for most of the races, besides maybe Daytona, we've seen double-digit cautions every other race. So it's not exactly too strange this season to see it in the Cup Series. But it being Bristol, you just hope that you get at least one solid green flag run. And usually one green flag run will take a big chunk out of this race. And if we are able to get at least somewhere in the 50 to 100 laps of green flag run, which is asking a lot, but if you're able to get at least one of those in, then that makes the race a lot shorter in terms of time.
And to mention, the last short track we visited was the second race of the season in the 4-Wide Cup Series competition. Phoenix Raceway brought 19 cautions total over the course and the span of that entire race. So we had double digits last night. We could very well see double digits this time around. And the lights are out in the iRacing official pace car, so of course we'll double them up and go back green. Dean Brummett will of course be your race leader. Not any changes within your first row. A little bit of changes through the midfield, but of course we had a caution on the opening lap off turn 2, so not much changing could have happened under the yellow flag, apart from maybe a nose out in front of whoever. Does not matter. We'll try to see exactly if we can get a green flag run, have some major battles for position, and look at Dean Brummett absolutely sailed to turn 1. He completely threw the field off as we come back to green at lap 7.
Yeah, the drivers last night were lucky that it was night when they were trying to battle for the lead on the inside of a restart. But here in the daytime, with the hot track temperatures that we have, it makes it even more difficult to try and get going on the bottom. We see Colin Forster down to the 4th position and still stuck on that bottom line. If there's any time this top is going to be as dominant as it can be, it's going to be now with these really high track temperatures. Just look at everybody trying to pin him down.
And you can see Colin Forster just stuck on the bottom. Everyone's pretty much freight training him up top. Same story we saw in the ARCA race last night. If you can get yourself down low, you're pretty much setting yourself up for failure, unless you can pretty much send it into the corner, which right now doesn't seem to be viable. As of lap 10, you see the 11 machine, Austin Reedy. He's going to slip by, going to give the open door for Craig Lautenslager. He's also going to make his way through. There's a line with AJ Green, Kyle Benson, handful of other cars in this mix, but Dean Brummett in the 57 continues to run away, but a caution flag flies at lap number 10 before we can continue. See some damage on Joey Ray, maybe the 9 of Brandon Gillis, potentially the 71 of Curtis Kelly as well, that might have gotten involved. A couple of slow cars near the rear of the field.
Yeah, we'll try and see exactly what happened here. And you see involved is last week's winner, Adam Alshire. He's right behind Curtis Kelly. Looks like Kelly just ran himself into the wall, and at hitting the wall, the car shoots down the track into the path of the force. So looks like Alshire here was in an unfortunate situation. You can see just turning left, but it was not turning left enough.
We saw that many a times in the ARCA race. There's Eric Schaefer getting very close, and he actually hit Brandon Gillis on the way there, so that explains Gillis's damage early. But you saw Curtis Kelly was the main victim in this one, along with Alshire. Doesn't seem like Alshire has too much damage. He did not hit the inside wall, so he will mostly be okay. The only problem will be for Curtis Kelly, who has a significant amount of damage, and then obviously you can bring in Brandon Gillis in that case as well. Both of those drivers are, I believe, going to hit pit road this time by. There you see Curtis Kelly. There's Alshire. A couple of cars who were not involved. They're taking trips down pit road. Ken MacArthur, he's got a bit of damage. Joey Ray's got some damage, possibly off of the restart. So he's going to make their way down pit road. And what you're going to see here, Francisco, you see that blue line right there on the left side of your screen. That means that we are running the single pit Bristol configuration. Usually in the Cup Series, you can run double pits, so you can enter on either side of the racetrack. But because it's single pit configuration here in the sim, it means you have to enter in one place and exit in another. You cannot kind of shortcut on either side of the track to find your pit stall. You have to go all the way around, and everybody else has to do the same thing. It's a very interesting rule here, Francisco, just because a lot of drivers are used to going on either side of the racetrack to find their pit stall, but this time it's just going to be about entering the same place and exiting in the same fashion.
And that's how it is at most racetracks. Then again, most racetracks don't have two separate pit lanes. But I'm pretty sure that was probably out of choice from the admins to do it that way, given that we have 24 cars. They're going to have to use that backstretch pit road just because of the car count. And probably because we also won't get any green flag pit stops. Usually a single pit road with green flag pit stops. I don't think iRacing penalizes you if you go enter on your side of the pit stall if it's under green, given that if you were to try to go in around both pit roads, which under green is a little bit unnecessary, which is why NASCAR doesn't mandate it like that, you could easily lose 4 or 5 laps.
It's a very interesting rule put in place. We saw a lot of drivers get used to it. We're going to see more drivers get used to it as well, especially the ones that did not run the ARCA Series race last night. Obviously, you can count a couple that do not regularly run the ARCA Series and only run the Cup Series. So this is their first time in this sort of fashion being in this configuration with a single pit road. But hopefully they can gather it up quickly, and we may hopefully not have any big issues going to that front. It'll be Dean Brummett, though, at the front of this field again, where we reach lap number 16 and back to the green flag. Obviously a big change in position on the outside of row 1. Forster is going to be miled back in row number 3 with Craig Lautenschlager. It'll be the 27 of Austin Bloom. The Circle B diecast car, Camaro on the outside. He'll be the next one in line to take position. Nathan Mon, Austin Riddy will foul out your second row currently on the track. Pace car going to make its left. We're going to hit pit road. Our second caution. Off and away. Green flag is back in the air.
And a huge jump there for Brummett. He's able to get well far ahead of those behind him, and it looks like the 29 is able to slot into second on his own. Bloom trying to defend for third against Craig Lautenschlager. He's working the bottom line, but unable to really make it work. And there comes Austin Reedy now, trying to see if he can squeeze to the outside.
Austin Reedy did the same thing here to Colin Forster, so he's going to swing up high, try to make that crossover down low on the racetrack in that diamond method, and he'll load, at least for the moment, try to get around the 13. There he will make the pass. Colin Forster is going to be the other end of the stick. He's going to be on the freight train side, so you follow with the 11 as well. The 10 of Kyle Benson. There's the 34 of Lance Hill. A lot of these guys that usually work together on the racetrack and now kind of working together to stay up top on the outside wall. That's just the dominant line that you're seeing here at Bristol. In wide effect as Lautenschlager got way out of shape. He's going to be able to save the race car, but just like the positions are being lost on the outside, he lost a couple of more in that exchange.
Yeah, and he's just free falling from here. You can see he's just being stuck on the bottom. In the daytime, it has just no business being there, and he's lost all that track position, and now he gets to slot in behind Brian M. Smith, and just look at how many cars are ahead of him now. He has lost all that track position. He was well inside the top 5 when this race restarted there just a handful of laps ago. Now he's down in the 9th position.
He's going to be back tonight. Did find the space, though, in between Brian M. Smith, the driver behind him, and AJ Green. So Lautenschlager's able to find this line up top, and nobody else has tried to look at an inside move. It is still about a 0.6 of a second gap between Dean Brummett and what is now second place Nathan Mon. He tries to defend against Austin Bloom, and the other Austin behind him, Austin Riddy. Very interesting note here because of Austin. He won this race last season at Bristol, but it was different conditions. Of course, a longer race, but it was nighttime conditions. There were a lot of wrecks. So many different factors that led to Riddy getting his first win of that season last time around. But it is a very different option here. And I can imagine as a driver, Francisco, you look at a defending race as obviously the opportunity to continue a dominance at a certain venue. But when things change, it can kind of throw you off your game a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I were also under the impression this could have been a night race, but here we are under the sunlight, and I think several guys are probably trying to adjust to that right now, especially those that ran last night, being that the track was under the night conditions. So now they have to completely go 180 and go from a 80-degree track temperature to 120-degree track temperature, as we saw at the start of the race. So you can see right there evidence of this track being very slick, especially on corner exit. That's going to really hurt these rear tires. These guys trying to get the power down as aggressively as they can. They got to take care of them. Obviously, the front tires wear. They normally do so at a normal rate. It's a little bit higher than normal at this track right now because of the higher temperatures. But those rear tires, those are the ones that are going to be punished all night.
And with the low downforce package, with that 750 horsepower engine underneath the hood of each of these NASCAR Cup Series machines, you have to be very feather-like on the throttle. You have to pretend there's an eggshell there, and you kind of have to push it slowly, but then you can finally realize when to go all the way. And here at Bristol, you really have to learn that discipline, because a lot of drivers are using this banking right now to their advantage, but you can get that transition coming off of the banking. Use a little bit too much throttle, the car can easily step out, and you could either find yourself in the wall with understeer or into the inside wall with oversteer. So it's a very different circumstance as you watch a battle right now between the top 6 and the exit of the top 5. That's Kyle Benson right now defending against Brian M. Smith. Forcer has found his way back down low, so he's going to lose both of those spots as they continue to go single file, but a very close train of cars here, Francisco.
Yeah, I've noticed this, that the 26, he's really falling off the pace, and he's really holding up this line. You see Reedy actually tag the wall, and he's going to get into the back of the 29. They're both into the wall. Reedy to the inside. He wants to get by the 29 now. He feels like he's being held up right now. He's going to try and throw it in on the inside, the 29 into the wall. Reedy clears him on the bottom. This 29 seems to be way off the pace right now, and you can see he has a little bit of rear bumper damage, so that's going to entice everybody on back, from Austin Bloom to Kyle Benson. Everybody, there's a huge train. They're all going to be trying to get by this 26.
And it's going to be appeasing as well if Mon ends up on the inside, because that means he's just going to lose everything. As you saw right there off of Mon's rear bumper, Kyle Benson had to swerve to get away from the 27 of Austin Bloom, as Bloom got way loose out of the exit of the corner, and now they're going to be side by side for position. Brian M. Smith is going to tail behind this 27, say, okay, this is the easy way out. I'll get this position easily. You want to battle? Then I'll just stay myself here, and I'll be in the right spot. Very tight between Bloom and Nathan Mon. They are ready to take this position away from the 29.
It looks like a restart back there, and the 29 in the wall sideways. It goes in front of Brian M. Smith, and he's going to try and keep it straight, but he can't. Into Kyle Benson. Both are around on the apron of the racetrack, bringing out the caution.
Caution flag flies for the 3rd time this evening. And you saw there, Mon was on the reverse gear, going backwards, and that took time. He smacked the wall, got a little bit loose, tagged Brian M. Smith, but it was ultimately the contact with Kyle Benson that set this one in stone. Take a replay of it, and I think this was a couple laps in the making, Francisco. Obviously, we saw everybody tailing to the rear bumper, but it was going to be this move right here. You saw the side-by-side action between Bloom and Kyle Benson. Benson's going to lose those spots. Doesn't seem to be any harm here, but it's going to be right about the next corner when Austin Bloom comes to the inside. Brian M. Smith is going to hold strong up top. It's right here. The smack to the outside wall, gets loose, bit of contact with the 78. Gets a second hit with that driver, and then gets into Kyle Benson, who unfortunately had nowhere to go. And then obviously both of them go spinning into the apron, which results in the caution as everybody tried to scramble to get away.
Yeah, and that 29, he was really slow. He was 6 seconds behind the lead at the time that the caution came out, as soon as they started to spin. So he was really holding up the whole field to the point where they're already half a lap behind the race leader. In a matter of laps, we went about 10 or 15 laps tops under that green flag run. So if that kept on, if the 29 kept on doing what he was doing, it could have easily resulted in your race leader, Dean Brummett, ending up on the backside of that long line of cars.
And you can see right there, Dean Brummett, he's going to hit pit road. The leaders are going to go down for the pits for the first time tonight. You mentioned at the top of the show, Francisco, we have 9 tire sets. So for Dean Brummett and most of the field, this is going to be the first tire set wasted. We'll see if anybody takes a gamble to maybe save a tire set. But as of right now, you're seeing everybody take mostly 4 tires and fuel. Dean Brummett off on the racetrack. Brian M. Smith, good car here to move out to second. And look at Logan Joyner move the 3 car in a P3 off pit road, as Curtis Kelly going to be the only driver to stay out here.
And a little bit of an interesting call here by Kelly to stay out. I believe he did pit under the caution beforehand to try and repair some of that damage, and probably did take a set of tires then. And if he did, then it won't be as bad as if he were on the race start tires. But speaking of tires, Kenneth, with the 9 extra sets that everyone has, that can go about 10 runs, because they don't include the tires that you start on. So it's the ones you start on plus 9. If you divvy that up in the number of laps we have here today, that should mean about every 20 to 25 laps, if you wanted to use every set as evenly as possible is when you would come down pit road. So I think we're still in a pretty decent window. I don't think that we'll be seeing drivers run out of tires. Not anyone running towards the front, really. I think maybe somebody who wants to try a different strategy, put on tires and just make the best of the situation further in the back, might try to do that and may end up cutting it close.
And tires are going to be big here, especially with the track temperature that we have, because it's going to eat away at the tires a lot more than it did last night when obviously we were under the lights at Bristol Motor Speedway. We were under the moon at nighttime, so the cooler temperatures meant that the tires could last a little bit longer. And from what we learned last night, it's that tires probably don't mean anything. They could give you a good benefit here at Bristol, but if you can hold on to the track position, hold on to the right lanes, and keep your race car controlled, then you can pretty much either one, pull away, but also just keep your track position. We saw Brian M. Smith do it with the oldest tires in the field. It was about almost 50 laps that he had on his set, and he walked away with the victory pretty easily, just holding on to the restarts and banking on a lot of yellows. We've had a couple yellows to start here tonight, but it is Curtis Kelly to bring us back to the green flag as he got very loose. That's going to give Brummett the advantage down low. And I guess Curtis Kelly's call to stay out might have bit him in the butt as he goes on the outside. Everybody swarming and taking away.
And that was the difference. I was going to say, kind of old tires at night are a lot different than old tires in the daytime. And right now, just free falling from that awful restart. He tried to get on the throttle, and those old tires being so hot are unable to get gripped up, and it just spun them the whole way around the front straightaway, and that's what's costing us so much track position right now. We're going to see this the rest of the day. Kind of tires will mean a lot more today than they did yesterday, and it's simply due to the very hot track temperatures, the slippery nature of this racetrack right now, and it's going to be proving vital. But one thing that hasn't changed is the fact that Brian Smith is working his way up towards the front of this field, and he is trying to hound for that second spot.
Right on board with the driver of the 78. He is absolutely on the rear bumper of Logan Joyner. He is still within grasp of the race leader, but of course, firstly, he needs to make this move, and it's going to be very tactical here. If the 78 can get it done, maybe Pete to the inside, make a crossover move, but right now he's elected to stay patient. Continues to stay on that outside lane. Of course, Smith, the winner last night in the ARCA race, in his first ever try in that series. He's been a multi-discipline winner in the 4-Wide Cup Series last season. So looking for that first here at the iconic Bristol Motor Speedway. He is going to be right on the back bumper, and that's going to invite none other than the 34 of Lance Hill.
I think Brian M. Smith is trying his best this season to imitate Kyle Busch, if you will. He's going to try and win a lot of races in both series, and he's definitely a driver that's capable of doing so. He from nothing at the start of last night's race to ending up with an interesting strategy called win. And look at that, a big dive bomb to the inside and able to take that spot away from the 3. He now finds himself in a second. So immediately, 2 of the top 3 finishers from last night's race are 1-2 right now. So right now, both showing the skill around this racetrack.
The classic slide job move by Brian M. Smith easily gets him to second, and now he's going to be able to charge onto the race leader. See a little bit of a battle here at the edge of the top 10. That's Tyler Murray in the 8 machine, fiddling in P8 right now. He's defending against AJ Green in the machine right behind him. Murray with a tough night at Bristol, last outing. And of course, last outing at the ARCA Series last night, he did also have a tough time. A lot of other drivers did, but for Murray, he just got caught up in a lot of big messes that some of them weren't his fault. He just got caught up on the wrong end of the stick. But right now, he's trying to right the ship at this point as he works on what seems to be now Colin Forrester and Craig Lounslager next in line. And it is just an absolute train from at least start to end right now as everybody just continues to work that high groove. And so far, Dean Brummett continues to pull away.
Yeah, if right now it looks like every run we're seeing somebody unable to really make the best of their tires, and they start holding up a train of cars, and eventually that train of cars will not end well. Maybe a little bit of contact, and that's how we get a chain reaction wreck starting. I mean, you can see there's a bunch of cars stacked up right behind Dirkfleet's car, but look at this. Kelly, the leader on the restart 10 laps ago, is about to get lapped.
He had a meeting with Brummett to start on the restart. He's going to get another meeting here, but this time he's going to be lapped on the racetrack. Kyle Benson, another driver who did get lapped as well. So unfortunate to see these guys already mired back so early. Only other drivers that are laps down include Brandon Gillis, who's 14, and Tony Kivett, who we saw about 2 laps down to open this race. He is currently about 37 laps down, but Dean Brummett already getting by. But look who's catching ever so slightly. Brian M. Smith was a little bit faster that last time by. Pretty even between the two, but if you wanted to give the advantage, you have to give it to the driver, the 78, who seems to be completely on the motive of just grabbing the race lead away and just running away with the race lead like he's done before.
Yeah, Brian M. Smith is trying to put on a charge, and he did gain a lot of time while they were trying to lap Kelly there. That's what allowed him to gain a chunk time, and now he's able to try and put some pressure. But speaking of putting pressure, here comes the 34 of Lance Hill trying to make a move on this 3 of Joyner, and he's unable to complete the pass. This is inside the top 5, and this is very similar to what we saw the 29 do the previous run. And if it continues this way, especially as this run goes longer and the tires get more worn and it has to become more difficult to drive this race car, contact may end up being inevitable, and as patience starts getting worn.
Yeah, later in this race, we're definitely going to see the patience start to wear out, and drivers are going to make more desperate moves, no doubt about it. As you look further through the field, there's Adam Allenshire, Cody Kinsey. They're in kind of aligned with themselves, and also Tyler Warner in this group as well, back to P14. Obviously, we mentioned Tyler Murray. He's fallen 3 spots back to 11th as Reedy's in a tight battle here. Lautenschlager a little bit loose off the corner. Both of them able to swing out the right rears. Reedy's got the advantage down low, almost about hip checks at 13. And a classic move made there by the defending winner at this track.
A classic Bristol move, and then tags the wall trying to see if he can catch up to the 5 of Joby Ray. I mean, look at this line of cars. As actually look further back, a great save there by Tyler Murray. Got very sideways off turn 4, keeps it pointed in the right direction. And here's these teammates. Look at them. All 3 are trying to stack up, and see 4 of them really. 4 of them are all together trying to see if they can work together to get by the 3 of Joyner, as Joyner hits the wall and he's able to stay in front of them. This is causing a massive traffic jam.
We've seen Stock Motorsports operate at full efficiency. They've been able to work together well at many of the venues we've seen this season, as Bloom gives the shove to Logan Joyner in the 3 machine, telling him, hey, let's go. This is our time to move up to the field. Remember, this is for P3, so while they're battling on the racetrack, they're losing time to the guys in the top 2 in Brummett and Smith. So if they continue like this, in this fashion, you can see already from the front bumper of Austin Bloom as he makes a pass for 3rd, they cannot see the top 2 in the racetrack. They see the lap cars up in front, but they cannot see Brummett and Smith because they have run away. It's about 5 seconds between Bloom and what is the race leader right now in the 57 of Brummett. So they do not, in any circumstance, want to be battling in this way, because that's only losing them more time. And if a run progresses, they might end up as the lap traffic soon enough.
Soon enough, and that's just the pace that we've seen Brummett and them have. But on top of that, just the amount of time they lost being stuck behind that traffic. And speaking of traffic, there's a little bit of traffic between the top 2 that's allowing Dean Brummett to pull away, who so far has led all but 3 laps of this event. And let me tell you right now, Kenneth, so far we did have our fair share of yellows, but it has been a little bit cleaner than last night's race, despite the conditions in trying to drive everybody into having more issues. But it looks like everybody is thriving in these hard to drive conditions. And look, Brian M. Smith had a moment that lap. He lost almost half the ground that he had on the race leader. So right now he is struggling on the racetrack, but in a comfortable P2 spot because of the job that we saw Joyner have in holding up the rest of the field.
I think it's been a mix of lap cars here, Francisco, that brought this gap to where it is right now, because it is almost about 2 seconds. It was at one point about 2/10, a couple of car lengths. It was very close between your top 2 leaders, but because the lap traffic kind of spurled themselves in, it allowed Brummett to clear, Smith to kind of hold some troubles, and that's what allowed the 57 to so far pull away, and he's now about 2.2 seconds clear of Brian M. Smith, as Smith kind of continues to fight his race car. And at some point, as you continue to see these guys battle for position as they get around the lap car, Curtis Kelly, it's going to get a lot harder to drive these race cars. And the ARCA Series cars, we saw a lot of drivers get loose on entry, which I guess was notable with those machines at that track. But obviously, compounding with the hot track temperature, compounding with the low downforce that you have on these Cup Series cars, you're going to get a very rough condition once the tires start to wear out, because the grip isn't there. The car can get very tight. Car can snap loose anywhere it can. And it just becomes a whole hodgepodge of different situations that you have to manage all at once. And I can imagine, even for the leaders being so dominant as they are right now, they have to be experiencing some kind of ailment.
Especially your race leader. He's going to be encountering major lap traffic here in just a handful of laps soon enough. And there you see right there, navigating 2 cars side by side, one of them being one of the cars having major troubles the last run. There you see CJ Munier, and there's the 29 in front of him as well. they're side by side. He's unable to go anywhere. It looks like it might settle itself out with the 29 on the outside. Should be going faster than the 25, but he gets into the wall. This is allowing Brian M. Smith to try and cut the lead back. He has to take maximum advantage now before he does inevitably get by both of these drivers. See, almost to the outside of the 29. The 29 still racing very hard, and he blocks him going to the inside.
The 29 picking the same lane that the 57 is doing, so finally they're able to part ways, and Brummett's finally able to make a move to the inside. That definitely cost him a bit. It's now down to 1.7 seconds as Smith was about 0.3 of a second faster the last time by, so you can see how much of a factor lap traffic is on this field. It's the first time we've seen it in full effect because we didn't see it last night, but at this point, Brummett almost smooth sailing, luckily without any contact, but if they continue to run side by side like that as it gets harder to lap the rest of the field, it's going to lose him more time in the process and could open the door wide open for Smith to either pounce, put some pressure, force the 57 into a mistake, or make the move for the race lead at lap 78.
And look at that, what's in front of him. More lap traffic, and a good amount of it too. As there you see Austin Bloom has gotten into the third position. Kelly once again getting lapped for the second time this run in a span of about 40 laps. But look at that, 5 more cars in front of him, and Dean Brummett has an extraordinary pace, so he is a lot faster than these guys, but he has to choose which line, because if they're running the outside, that just makes it so difficult to pass on the bottom. He has the pace to do it, but it does also use up his tires a little bit. You see, he looks to the inside of Newbrawl there. Newbrawl doesn't really run the bottom. You see the 51 actually get into the wall there. But the 57 trying to see if he can navigate a way through this racetrack. Might try the crossover on Newbrawl going into turn 1. We'll have to see which lines each driver picks here, and if they may be in communication. As there you see the 5 of Joby Ray, the 48 of AJ Green, and the 11 of Austin Reedy. They're all battling together on the racetrack as Green gets the wall.
What might be the problem here for the 57 of Brummett is that obviously as he comes up to the field to lap more drivers, they're going to want to run their own lanes. And for many, there's a saying about lap cars is that you don't have to be slow, you don't have to pretty much protect yourself from everybody else. As it gets tight with the lap car, Curtis Kelly's AJ Green try to go by, and Reedy gets turned on the straightaway. That would definitely bring out a caution. It does at lap 82. And defending race winner at this venue, Austin Reedy goes for a spin as they were trying to catch Curtis Kelly and pass him on the racing track. And that was a tough place to be in as they were 3 wide on the back straightaway.
Yeah, I think you gotta, if there's anyone to blame in that situation, it looks like it's gotta be the 71. I mean, he stayed out on these old tires, he's gotten lapped twice, and now you can see just how off the pace he is relative to those around him. And right there, he gets into the wall in front of these guys who are battling for top 5 position, and he's got to do a little bit of a better job to try and make sure he doesn't cause an incident like this. He didn't exactly do anything wrong. He isn't allowed to do that. Just you normally want to make sure you can give these lead lap cars space when you're 2 laps down.
And there's the Austin Reedy with some damage to his Chevrolet Camaro. I don't believe it's going to be too much to affect his run, but obviously he's lost all the track position. That's going to be the only damage that he acquires, apart from some of the fender bending. As you see, the leaders will come down pit road. They're going to make the other entrance, of course, to the other side, where Brummett will hold the first starting spot and his first stall. Smith is going to tally in behind him. Austin Bloom, they've got a good distance to Bloom and Joby Ray, AJ Green. And everybody here is going to hit pit road. Presume this is going to be another tire set burn. Saw the 78 of Brian M. Smith. He took at least 2 tires now. We'll see if he goes for a full 4. I believe with the time he is going to take a full 4. It's going to be the consensus here after the first long run of the evening to go for 4 tires and fuel, as Smith is actually almost going to get out quickly enough to get ahead of Brummett. But Brummett's going to get the best of the 78 once again.
Yeah, you saw right there that green cone immediately on the exit of pit road right in front of his stall, so that's very favorable for your pole sitter of this race. All he has to do is hit the throttle and he's there. So very favorable position on pit road to be. As long as he has clean stops, he should be able to keep the lead on pit road unless anybody tries some alternative strategies, which of course can still happen later in this race. But I do believe most of the field has used maybe at least 2 sets of tires right now, so we have 7 left. That run right there was very beneficial in keeping sets available to these guys in case they do want to try something alternative as this race goes on. We see the top two have a lot of pace. They're a lot faster than most of the field, but we'll have to see just what the rest of the field does to try and see if they can close up to him. Oh, what happened there between Jovi Ray and the 78?
Not exactly sure. I think it was just to slow down, a bit of a checkup. Jovi got into him a little bit, almost turned the 78 completely around, but luckily they avoided severe disaster. As you can already see, the damage from many of the drivers behind your race leader. Brummett seems to have the cleanest car of them all, but Smith, you see him with a good amount of front and rear damage. Same deal for Jovi Ray. He's got a heavy front end damage, a little bit of a crinkle on the left of rear, but not so significant on that front. You see the 27 Austin Bloom with some right side damage. A lot of drivers already with bent bumpers did not take the fast repair. Many of them did. Only had a couple that have burned them off. One of them being, I believe, Curtis Kelly, and he so far is the only driver to do so in the field. So with some of the drivers that got some of the damage, doesn't seem to be too severe to get any sort of fast repair just yet. Hold on to it for the rest of this race. But it's a clean race car, and Dean Brummett, 57, good launch off turn 4. He's going to be back to the lead, back to the green flag at lap 88.
Brian Smith able to get to the outside quickly. He doesn't have to fight for the second position. We'll have to see what he's able to do now on new tires. That Bloom wasn't able to take advantage of starting second row on the outside. He's still in the 4th position behind Jovi Ray, and he's going to be under fire from his teammate here rather soon of Colin Forrester.
You see everybody storming back off the corner of the back straightaway. Smith tries to catch up to your race leader. Remember, all these guys are now on fresh tires, so this is just going to be about who's got the best skill over the course of the short run. Smith so far has the advantage, a little bit faster that last time by, and Jovi Ray is trying to make that move. Is a little bit loose, went Lounslauger underneath, and he's going to get turned behind them as they wreck across the corner. Lance Hill's involved in this as well. You see Alishire getting laid into it without any damage. But a caution again flies with a multi-car incident, and we saw the stem of it, Francisco. A little bit of a loose condition out of the 13, and then it was ultimately the merge back onto the racetrack that brought this yellow out.
Yeah, you noted that there off turn 2, the 13 was sideways off the corner, right there was off turn 4. So here, going into 1 and 2, you see a little bit of rear damage, but he gets loose in the middle of the corner, probably on throttle application. It's chasing it the whole way, and at the same time, contact between the joiner and someone else happened to send his joiner's car into the back of the 13 just as he had it saved. And unfortunately, Murray Hill involved. There you see the 4 actually wheel hop to avoid this crash. So no damage whatsoever from the 4. Nobody hit him. Just wheel hop trying to avoid this one.
And you see it there on the onboard from Tyler Murray up ahead the road. That 13, he got way out of shape in the middle of the corner before it started. And then right here with Murray, he has nowhere to go. He was the 3rd car involved in this. Couldn't quite identify it when it first happened, but he seems to be the 3rd car collected in this. Lance Hill with a lot of damage. You saw Adam Alishire kind of give a spin later in the wreck. Right about here, you'll see him swerving down the apron with no damage, but he got caught up in this at the end of it. So it began on the 13, and it was a hit by Cody Kinsey right there, Francisco, that you noted. The hit to Logan Joyner rather was pretty much the turning point in this one. You'll look on board here. That's Nathan Mon right behind the action. He's able to slow down in time as the carnage piles up in the middle of, I believe, turn 3.
I think we also should look on board with Kyle Benson. He split the C's right there going by that wreck. He went on both sides of Lance Hill and Tyler Murray and Alishire as they were going through that crash. It was quite impressive he was able to get through that.
So a caution flies once again on lap number 93. We'll see if we can get Kyle Benson's look at this one and just how wild it was. And you can see everybody still under the pace laps as we continue on, but we're going to look on to Kyle Benson. Exactly how the Ricky Bobby machine was able to navigate this in the middle of it all. You'll see the action right in front of him. Slowing down, everybody swerving down the racetrack. Oh, that's not a lot of space.
Yep, but he's running the Ricky Bobby car. Probably had some Ricky Bobby help alongside him with that me scheme with the Tiger on the front of the car. So he's definitely got speed and the handling of that race car here tonight. Maybe the the Tiger does get unleashed before the night is over and he goes up there and challenges for this win, no?
I mean, you can make the reference. We made a lot of Cars references last night and Disney references rather in the ARCA race. So could we be on the Ricky Bobby track? I'm not exactly sure. It's out on Netflix right now. I saw it not too long ago. Definitely an entertaining watch as a NASCAR fan. Even if you're not a NASCAR fan, it is a lot of fun. And we'll see if Kyle Benson can gather the reins, maybe do a little shake and bake, get the slingshot to the front of the field, and we'll see if he can contend. But as of right now, he's going to be buried in track position. You can't see him there on the screen, so he's going to be joining back. There he is, right there, that orange and black Chevrolet Camaro. He's going to be emerging back on the racetrack. He's going to have a lot of work to do. The work lies with Dean Brummett, who again will look after turn 4 as another opportunity to get another good restart and get away from everybody else. And off turn 4, he'll do just that. We're back under green.
And Smith immediately covers the outside line to prevent the 27 of Bloom from trying to take advantage of him. They're side by side for third, and this is a teammate scramble here. They're all trying to get into the top 5 with Joey Ray in the middle.
Stock Motorsports trying to make the effort work. Forrester again stuck on the bottom side in his 99 machine. 48 of AJ Green's going to follow. Austin Reedy, we saw him involved in an incident recently. He's now back into the top 10. As Brian Smith, he is right on the back bumper of Dean Brummett. He has not been able to try and complete a pass. He's just been kind of laying back here waiting for the right moment. And he got very close in the middle of the corner, but it's the exit that Brummett gets that really sails him off.
It looked like the 78 checked up there on corner entry, afraid that he might end up too close to the 57's rear bumper, fearing that it's still too early to make any aggressive contact to try and get the lead away. Still stalking that 57, and you can see everybody single file through the top 10.
Everybody single file. It's going to be the motto to hang that high side and be able to complete as we go to lap number 100. So already almost about halfway through this event as Brummett has led all but 3 laps in this race. You can see all the Stock Motorsports guys kind of banding together within the edge of the top 10. And there's Tyler Warner back in P8. Brendan T. Banks to 9th. And there we have another yellow flag. This time, I believe, might have been the 9 of Brandon Gillis. Although you can see significant damage to the driver who was involved in the first caution on lap number 1. Eric Schaefer in the 22, he's got no front clip.
No front bumper on that 22, so we'll have to see exactly what occurred here to bring out the yellow and give himself that damage on the front end of his race car. And we see someone, I think Lance Hill also didn't have a front end, may have been from the last caution right here. You can see some smoke up there. Car on the wall, maybe. Actually, no. The yellow's already out right here.
Could have seen that it was Brandon Gillis that might have been involved, but he has exited the racetrack. So we're just trying to see if there was anybody collected in either a half spin or a full spin that got us into this caution. We'll try to see around the midfield if there was anybody else involved here, but it didn't seem like it was the case. It seemed as though everybody was content being single file. I guess you could call this a mystery caution in lap 102 to the midpoint of this race, no?
I believe the debris is out there somewhere, Kenna.
Somebody threw a water bottle somewhere, I think. I'm gonna
her broke.
Try to find somebody in the virtual crowd, or maybe even on the track. Try to see if we had an extra camera there, if they threw anything out. But really, no, we still have our yellow flag here, lap 103. A couple of drivers are gonna hit the restart, as a lot of them did not decide to go down pit road. Doesn't seem to be as quick. This is going to be part of the strategy here, Francisco, that we'll touch on a couple more times throughout tonight's races. Obviously, again, the lack of tire sets, or the lack of unlimited tire sets per se, the fact that you can't just go down every yellow and go for fresh rubber. You have to tactically decide when you want to go down, when you want to burn a set, and how many you're going to proceed for the end of this race. Because mind you, we can get pushed into green-white checkered territory like we did last night. And if you don't have a tire set that could crucially change the outcome of the race, then you could be ultimately in the wrong place. And that's where we're going to touch on it. The fact that there is sort of a scarcity in the tire sets is that you have to be a little smarter with them. And in cases like this, you know better than to go down pit road and go for fresh.
And not to mention that they hold more value in today's race.
Yes.
Just a lot more track temperature in this racetrack. And we've seen it. The bottom just does not work. Last night, you were able to hold on for several laps on the inside. Tonight, you're just getting dusted by everyone on the outside. So if you have new tires and can get on the outside line, well, not even then. I think if you have new tires, you can really make the bottom work for a couple laps to get past the immediate traffic in front of you. And once you can settle out into the outside line, it's just about how long does it take you to get up front. But that's going to be well over 100 laps from now, Kenneth. We still have to focus on the middle portion of this race, as I believe we're going to get the one to green here.
Indeed we are. So lights will be out on the pace car. So we'll go one more trip around Bristol. We'll have Dean Brummett on the inside this time. Chose the outside lane the last time around. So I believe a very interesting decision out of the 57. Although it seems as though no matter what lane the leader chooses, they're going to have the ultimate boost. And Brummett, remember, he is a driver that does not have a win in 4-wide racing competition. Had the top 3 last night, but has yet to find himself in victory lane. Smith has already done it a couple times, and you have people behind them also that have not had a checkered flag to their name in 4-wide racing competition. Obviously, that includes the Stock Motorsports Group. And other than pretty much Colin Forster and Adam Alshire, as we go back under green. And again, 57 with a good start. How about we turn things up here on MaxSpeedTV as we crank it up here from Bristol. Caution out on the racing surface, and you saw it right there. It was Logan Joyner who got spun. Ken MacArthur got involved in an incident here in the middle of the corner. And then right behind him, the 3 of Joyner just got turned. And we'll try to see exactly what happened. Take a look at our replays. Again, we have another yellow flag on the racetrack. Francisco, take us through it. Big contact right there between Cody Kinsey and MacArthur. And then all hell breaks loose.
It appears that Ken MacArthur was not aware that the 93 was on his outside with the way he jerked the car there on the straightaway. A little bit of contact on the front straightaway with someone else. I believe it was either Craig Longslager or the 10 of Kyle Benson. But right here, I don't know if he thinks he's clear or a little bit of neck code involved as well, I'll be fair at. But he does drift up the racetrack, maybe unaware that the 93 was getting a run to his outside.
See it right there, and then there you'll see Logan Joyner get collected. Lance Hill gets involved in it. There you see CJ Monier, Christopher Bishop. They kind of fall down the apron in the banking, as you would say, and they end up with some sort of damage on the racetrack as well. As we have another yellow flag on lap 112. So the cautions are starting to build up, and field again is going to elect to stay out at least for now. We'll see if anyone's looming down pit road. See the 57 decides to go, but as of right now, nobody deciding to do so for the moment. So as we have another yellow, we're about halfway through this race, so it's about time to take a look at our race summary as of the cross flags of this race from Bristol. We got 114 laps to go, although that doesn't seem to be very many laps, especially here in Bristol from how quick it happens. We've had 7 cautions so far. See right there, counter went up from 32 to 33 laps of caution. We'll probably go up to at least 34 to 35 before we can wave the green flag here at the halfway mark. We have a total of 2 lead changes. Haven't had that many because the driver of the 57 has been in control since the very moment he took the front spot away. So he's been very dominant, Francisco. And as of right here, we talk about dominance. Austin Reedy was pretty dominant in the ARCA race last night. I know I've referenced the ARCA race a lot, but we seem to see a lot of parallels that can happen at this track in this series with a lot of the same drivers from last night's event. So if you're anybody like Smith or maybe Joby Ray, these guys, how do you plan to stop Dean Brummett from continuing to lead this race and maybe walk away with a victory if it goes to that point?
We know that track position is going to matter at some point. We know the tires also value more today than they did yesterday. So it is a tough position to be in because you can't just willingly stay out trying to see if track position is going to work, because eventually those tires will find their way to the front. They're going to be more effective today than they were. But we also have to realize just how many laps is it going to be left? How old are the tires? Because if you stayed out, or excuse me, if you pitted about 10, 15 laps ago, it might be worth staying out if the run is anywhere less than 5 to 10 laps, no more, because it might be just enough for you to hang on, depending, of course, where the first driver on 4 tires was restart.
Track position will be crucial near the end of this race. Obviously, still a long way to go, so we are far from any crucial decisions for the checkered flag and maybe any pit strategy calls or anything else that can happen that could significantly change the outcome and the running order like that has been very different from what we've seen so far in tonight's race. So it'll be the 57 choosing the outside lane. He'll have control of the restart once more. Brian Smith will be underneath him to row number 1. You'll find the Stock Motorsports group of AJ Green, Joby Ray, Colin Forster, Austin Bloom back to the first or the last 2 rows to row number 3. Then you'll find about everybody up to Austin Reedy, who currently holds the final spot in the top 10. 57 back underway. Smith with a better restart. He's going to clear the outside, but Brummett's going to lean him back to turn 1 and 2.
It looked like there was a bobble there on that outside for Bloom, and he was probably getting hit a little bit of help from behind, but you don't want that in the corners here. So it unfortunately cost him that 4th position even. But right now you see him trying to fight his teammate as Dean Brummett has built himself at least 1 car length between him and the 78. Brian M. Smith, his opportunity has been these restarts. Can he take advantage of it?
Smith has been very close on every restart. He has just yet to pretty much implement a pass. As again, a caution, a big wreck on the back straightaway. That's Lance Hill once again collected. CJ Munoz come to a dead stop. Ken MacArthur, Nathan Mon was in that as well, and a big stack up once again brings us under yellow. Let's take a look at this, because this was definitely very different from what we've seen before. Right out with Mon. It started up at the front of the field, no doubt, because you'll see Lance Hill and everybody else get collected, and I believe you'll see it the next time around. Once we go to the back straightaway, right there, Newball gets loose in front of the field, stacks up. Curtis Kelly gets into it as well, and then you'll see Bishop, Murray, MacArthur, Mon, and Hill involved in this one.
Massive stack up there off turn 2, and it, as you see and as we've talked about throughout the night, is if a wreck happens and it's more than 1 car, the track can easily get blocked, and there's nowhere you can really go, especially in the corner, because you have to stay on the racing surface to keep any kind of speed. So it's going to be very difficult to come to a stop. You see right there, very late, Munier filling in. Just you can't really miss a wreck here unless you come to a complete stop. And even though he slowed down very much, he didn't exactly come to a complete stop. You see right there, just a little bit of a tag to the back of 71 of Curtis Kelly to send him spinning as well. Munier trying to stop, unable to do so. Schaefer's did come to a stop though, but he has damage from previous incidents. He's down pit road.
We've seen many instances come off of many single car incidents, and I think a point that we made a little bit earlier when looking at the comparison between Brian Smith and Dean Brummett was that Smith kind of checked up in the middle of the corner, and that's kind of the same situation that we saw with Curtis Kelly and Ken MacArthur, is that MacArthur was a little bit faster. Curtis Kelly tried to check up in the middle to probably get maximum speed off the exit, and that's what brought them together, and in turn obviously turned the 71 around and then just blocked the whole track, resulting in many of the cars like Lance Hill, Nathan Mon, and the others to get involved. Tyler Murray also collected many unfortunate breaks for those guys, especially at this segment of the event. So we'll look more at fast repairs. Cody Kinsey has taken his. We saw Curtis Kelly as pretty much the only driver to do so. Lance Hill, he's been the only other driver to burn a fast repair apart from Kelly and Kinsey, but he's got a significantly damaged race car. So this is obviously after the fact that he got a clean race car from initial damage on a first wreck. Francisco, that's certainly not where you want to be, as he's going to be one of the lap cars, and his car is completely torn up. As you can see, that Michael McDowell car parts paint scheme that got torn up in Indianapolis road course this past week after a very wild finish on that front.
Speaking of the Indianapolis road course, Kenneth, I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere around this racetrack there's any debris hidden from how many cars we've seen get sideways. Maybe they're running over it, and maybe it's causing problems for them.
You know, thankfully we don't have curbs at Bristol, so it would have been a lot worse if we had some sort of curbs, or if we were on a road course. That would have been an entirely different mess. Maybe we see someone of the safer barrier. Hopefully not. Yeah. But in the virtual side, I don't think we're going to have that issue as well. I think the only thing you're going to find up to the outside wall is obviously the decals on the track and a little bit of tire marbles that we've seen from any of the runs we've had so far in this race. We're going to rack them up once more. Get back green, lap 123 of 225. Telemetry tells us that if we go green from here on out, we'll have a solid about 26 minutes before we can deduce a winner. We had Smith win last night. He's looking for the week sweep in 4-wide competition. he's got the inside line of choice this time around, as Brummett will be the control car all the way to the top of the 24-degree banking. Back under green, Brummett again with a nice control, but it is Smith heavy to the outside to block a charging AJ Green and the 5 of Jovi Ray, as Ray tries to peek underneath. No success. Single file to the top 4.
It was a better restart for the outside lane that time, and Green was putting pressure on Brian M. Smith to try and make sure he was able to slot in front and battle for that second position. He is able to get ahead, and right now is running in that second position. Most of the positions in the top 5 have not changed over the last couple laps, but here are positions that are changing. Austin Reedy's trying to make some moves. He catches up to the 27 on corner exit, as we see a car very lucid coming across the start-finish line. They are able to keep it pointed in the right direction, so no caution.
Couple more cars getting loose. That's Michael Newbart down the racetrack. I believe the one that did get loose off the corner was the 8 of Tyler Murray. But of course, as you noted, Francisco, he's going to keep it straight. We're going to stay under green. Watch the Stock Motorsports guys, though. Within this group in the top 5, there's Colin Forcer. He's moved up to 5th. Austin Bloom has moved his way to 6th, as he's under fire from Austin Reedy as he comes to the inside.
Reedy may have been one of the few people that came in to take tires. The 27 hard into the wall to give the position to Austin Reedy. Reedy finds himself in the top 5 now. He's trying to see if he can go up there and maybe challenge these guys.
And you said it there. He has the freshest tires out of anybody in the top 6. 14 laps now, 15 laps on his tires compared to everybody else at about 43. And they're going to even out once more as the caution flag waves. And another big pileup as Mon goes over on his side. That's going to be a tow right there for him, as Kyle Benson also collected. Mon gonna, at this point, tow back to pit road, but it is another piece of carnage that gets swept here at Bristol Motor Speedway. We'll try to find the results of exactly what happened between Mon and the rest of the competitors. I figure it was an incident up ahead that caused Mon to be in this, but we'll just take a look as Launslugger tried to force the inside. Seemed to be okay from there. You see driver slowing down right there, and it was Kyle Benson that got collected in this first. And then you see Mon there, and he just gets caught by the apron. Unfortunately, goes over on his side, but it was Benson that got into peril the first time around. Take a look at this.
I wonder what happened here. He gets into the wall. Oh, and he's going to hit the end of the pit wall, like we've seen many times in real life, and sitting in the middle of the racetrack, unable to do much, and the track becomes blocked because it's so narrow. You see, right, we're going to see it again. This is the turn 3 and 4. He's going to try and diamond it. This is actually the lap before. This is the view from Joyner off the corner. You see right up there that he's sitting in the middle of the racetrack, nowhere for any one of these drivers to go. And for the second day in a row, I believe Mon listened to our broadcast yesterday, and he saw everybody in the ARCA race that was trying to enter their 2024 Olympic slips, and I think he might have tried to submit his entry.
He does. We had a numerous amount of cars go up in the air last night. We've had our total count of 1 tonight. You'll see it there. Mon gets the pace car almost goes right in between them, and Benson gets heavy damage. Nice job by Michael Newball to come to a complete stop, so he walks away from this one unscathed for the most of this. And you'll see Kyle Benson, he's gonna get his faster pair. I believe the 3 machine of Logan Joyner is gonna do the same, but here's a call down pit road. Gene Brummett, who will be 6th right now on the track, he decides to pit. Smith, AJ Green, Forster, many of the drivers on the lead lap have decided to take service, and that's gonna leave Jovi Ray at the front of this field with a couple others who have risked to stay out this time.
And they have to try something different at some point, Kenneth. So I'm not entirely against this call by them. There is still almost 100 laps to go, and that time will go by quickly, especially with all the cautions that we have. But at any point, you can get a green flag run, and if all you need is the track position and everyone has to come down to pit road again, you have just placed yourself in the best spot to catapult up the order and be on equal tires. But of course, it's easier said than done.
See there, Jovi Ray running a Jimmy Johnson-esque paint scheme from when he won the 5. I believe it was the All-Star race that he had ran it. And he's going to be in the lead. He's only led 1 lap, but definitely going to be leading a lot more now under yellow and, of course, under the restart. Adam Alashire, who won last week's race at Daytona, he's going to follow the inside. So Adam Alashire, for one of the first times this race, is going to have a shot at the race lead. And Craig Launslugger, Cody Kinsey will line up the second row. There you see Brummett and Brian Smith. Line throws ahead. I believe Ryan actually beat Dean off pit road, so that's why you see Smith at the top of row 3 and Brummett at the bottom of row number 4. So a very interesting switch up between two of the most dominant drivers tonight. But it's ultimately about whether they can get around the group that lines up the first 2 rows and are pretty much going to be gridlocked when we go back green. Pace car going to go back down. It's the 5 lows machine of Joby Ray in control. Even restart for many. Outside line gets a big jump to turn 1.
And a good jump for that outside line. And look at Brian M. Smith coming up through the middle of 3 wide, splitting the field. He is way ahead of Dean Brummett now. And guess what? Brian M. Smith is going to have a strong chance to take the lead here. Even though he's on the inside, he has those newer tires. As the 5 gets the wall, Lon Slugger's boxed in. Here comes Brian M. Smith.
It was an absolute power move to thread it 3 wide. He's on the inside of Joby Ray. Gonna slide up top. Not gonna quite clear off the corner. Look at Colin Forster get loose off the corner as well. He's part of the group of fresh tires. It is fresh versus old on the inside and the outside. It is still dead even for the race lead.
And Brummett starting to work his way up there. The Ray is just able to keep the nose in on the outside, unable to let the 78 in. And that's what's allowing everyone else to still have a shot. But Brian M. Smith makes those new tires work. He gets cleared for the lead. Forrester and Brummett are still back there in 3rd and 4th. Forrester trying to make these passes on the bottom. You can see just how hard it is, even with the newer tires, how hard it is to make the pass on the inside. But no problem for Brian M. Smith. He is easily pulling away.
Headway cleared for the 78 to take the race lead. You ride on board with the other driver on fresh tires as Colin Forster continues to try to work the bottom on Craig Lownslager. Brummett, again, dominant race driver this entire evening. And now he's buried in traffic as the 13 slaps the outside wall. And it is still side by side. There is absolutely nowhere for Brummett to go. And that's only going to allow Smith to say, hey guys, you guys do the bidding. I'll be out of here in just a moment as they're still side by side as Ray continues to guard for second.
And the tough part is if you're the 57 right now, you don't have enough momentum to take them 3 wide, and this track is not wide enough to safely take it 3 wide, so you can't really do anything if cars are side by side in front of you. But speaking of cars side by side, a caution further back, and it looks like maybe Christopher Bishop involved.
Might be as well. Bishop is already 4 laps down, but another crash there as you try to find exactly where everything situated themselves. Saw Eric Schaffer there in the mix as well. Lance Hill made a stop down pit road. We'll try to find to see where it all started. And Lance Hill was actually running up to the front of the field right there. Cody Kinsey gets in it, Michael Dubois. And indeed it was Lance Hill that got caught up in this as well. And I believe Logan Joyner, who's had a rough night from here on out. He takes out both cones, blue and yellow. Well, the poor cones not standing a chance here tonight. They get completely wiped out on both ends. And you see Joyner going around. Curtis Kelly gets a bit of it as well. There's Lance Hill to give the finishing blow. I believe that might be race over for the 34 of Lance Hill as Joyner decided to tow. And Lance Hill and Joyner both burn up the faster pairs and most likely will be out of this race.
It has not been a pretty night for anyone in turn 2 here at this racetrack in today's race. I mean, we've had a lot of incidents go on in that end of the racetrack, and the backstretch has been the scene of melee, and with about 80 laps to go, Kenneth, I doubt it's over.
It's definitely far from over. We still have a long way to go here. About 83 laps comparatively to the end of the race. So we are still a good amount of ways until we can get somebody to win this event. But unfortunate for Logan Joyner, who's doing so well to open this race. Lance Hill, who was also in the mix of the top 10 to start as well. Their nights have turned for the absolute worst, and they may have to pack it up and go for the Pocono Mountains next Wednesday night and see if they're able to try to rebound from what was a tough race so far here, already past the halfway point at the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. And talk about next Wednesday's race. Well, we've got a good schedule upcoming for you in the 4-wide racing world. It'll start next Tuesday, where the 4-wide racing ARCA series heads for the Legacy Pocono Racetrack, the 2011 configuration version. That is, of course, the bumpy version of Pocono Raceway. We'll have that coverage at 9:10 p.m. Eastern, where you can find that on the K1 Racing Network YouTube channel, youtube.com/K1 Racing Network, before we're back for action on MaxSpeedTV next Wednesday night, where we go for the Pocono Mountains, but the modern Pocono Raceway in sim. Coverage will begin at 9:10 p.m. Eastern. You can find it tucked right here on MaxSpeedTV. So a lot more to come for virtual 4-wide racing action. We had a scintillating last season, and so far our third season for the Cup Series and our inaugural ARCA season has gone off to a fantastic start. It's been very good racing top to bottom, lots of chaotic events, chaotic sequences, and of course many race winners. So be sure to tune in for the rest of the season. We have a lot coming up for you. We've got a lot coming up though, Francisco. On this restart, what are your keys here if you're any driver apart from Brian M. Smith, or if you're Dean Brummett?
Well, right now, Brian M. Smith is in control for the restart for the first time tonight, and he chooses the inside line. That puts Colin Forster on the outside. He should have a pretty decent chance at getting a run. It might be enough to stay ahead of the 57, and if that's the case, Dean Brummett is going to be in a bit of trouble. So advantage to Brian M. Smith, of course, being the leader, but also the 99 and the 13. They might be able to keep second and third here, depending on who gets the better start.
Brian M. Smith has been a controller of restarts, and the 99 and Forster are looking to make it even. Not so even, though, as they come back to the green flag. This time, Brummett gets the advantage, and without doing a lot of work, Brummett immediately comes back to P2 on the racetrack as they are tangled side by side behind them. Look at Kyle Benson go for a ride on the outside wall. He's able to keep it straight, but it is still gridlocked between Reedy and Bloom as again the caution waves, and again yellow flag flies, as I believe Adam Alishire might have had a moment off the corner. It was a little slow on the racetrack. Maybe a hash pin in this case, but just like that, we go back behind the pace car.
Pace car's probably going to complete as many laps on the racetrack as these drivers are at this rate. Oh!
Right there, you see the replays. It was Brandon T. Banks actually hitting the outside wall up ahead the road from the aid of Tyler Murray. You see him hit the wall here, but he has no issue. It's mostly here with Alshire, who also hits the wall, tags along Brandon T. Banks. Good enough on both of them. They did not hit the inside wall, but this half spin, and although they were miraculously able to wheel those cars back straight, iRacing constituted as a yellow. So with that half spin, they are again going to be bringing us back to rest as Brian M. Smith continues to lead. So as we're approaching lap number 150 in the closing stage here from the last great Coliseum, yellows continue to plague this one as Brian M. Smith takes over the race lead. We'll take a short break, but you won't miss a thing right here on MaxSpeedTV for the 5th race of the 4-wide racing Cup Series from Bristol. Welcome back to the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway, the 5th race of the Season 3 4-wide racing Cup Series campaign. You can see Brian Smith leading this field They're ready to go back under green flag action as the 78 took over the lead from the 57. And we'll see how the opposite end of the spectrum goes, as Brummett had been in the lead most of this race. Smith off to a good start. We're back under green as Brummett tries to make hold of the inside lane.
And Lanslonger tried to see if he can get to the outside of Brummett, but unable to do so. Mayhem back there throughout the field. Everyone trying to get into position. Teammates battling each other. And there you see Austin Reedy in the middle of that battle, trying to see if he can pick them apart.
Reedy has been on the move since the past couple of cautions. Now he's trying to make it stick on Colin Forrester. He's going to have no avail. He's going to tuck back in line, and they're going to stay single file. How about the move here for Craig Launslager? He moves up to third as Brummett tried the inside for a moment. Was going to look at him, but seems to be back in second. But what a move by Launslager after the issues he's faced. He's now back up to third in nice fashion with a clean Toyota Camry.
He has the track position now, so we have to see what Craig Launslager can do. A short track guy is what I've heard out of this guy, and right now he is doing just that, running very solid behind two of the fastest drivers we've seen tonight. Best of the rest, if you will, for this 13, but if that's the case, even that's going to be a solid result. And
Launslager, he did not pick up a win at a half-mile track in last season's campaign. Did pick up a win at the 875-mile track at Iowa, and actually did very well at the other half mile that we visited apart from Bristol. The Martinsville Speedway did very well, but unfortunately was not able to capture the race victory. And Launslager trying to continue his short track success, and he goes up to the outside wall, still defending against both Forrester and Reedy, who have kind of tailed them in a train. There goes the stock motorsports duo of Austin Bloom and AJ Green. And then you'll find, of course, Ricky Bobby Carr, Kyle Benson with a faster pair. He's back up to 8.
And right now, you can see a line of cars already starting to form behind Launslager, who got the wall. Maybe not too much damage on that car, but as this run goes, that's going to affect tire wear on that right front. You see already the 99 trying to jump to the inside. He's going to lose a spot there to Austin Reedy. And we know Reedy's going to be aggressive to not only get the spot on the 99, but to then focus on that 13 to see if he can start putting himself in the talks of Brian M. Smith and Dean Brummett before this one's over. The 13 into the wall once again, and as you can see up ahead of this group, the top two close together, but the yellow flag waves once again. The pace car will make its way back out onto the racetrack.
And yellow flag flies. We saw a clean race car earlier on Cody Kinsey's machine, but it seems to be the complete opposite this time around. Not sure whether he was involved in the most recent yellow, but we'll take a look. Actually, he had this damage before, so it might have been around this group where Michael Newbraw and the three of Logan Joyner is, and there it is right there. Collects the 3 machine. Well, these guys have had rough nights since the drop of the green. And there it is right there, the tag from Logan Joyner to the 93 machine of Cody Kinsey. Bishop almost gets collected, but again, another 2-car incident to bring us under rest at lap 161 as you take another look at it from the aerial shot. Not exactly what you want to see if you're Brian M. Smith, because you were trying to walk away with the race lead, and now you're going to be back on pit road. Everybody on the lead lap is going to hit pit road. I believe Austin Reedy, Kyle Benson, some of the 2 drivers to stay out on this exchange. They don't believe their tires are that old, so Smith and Brummett are going to hit pit road, and the rest of the field is going to try to decide what they're going to do. But as of right now, we got some split strategy, but we'll talk about the strategy in the point standings after the first couple of races. And of course, you'll see Colin Forrester occupy that top spot. It's been a joyride for him after his first 3 wins of the season, sweeping the first ones, and then Adam Alshire with the win at Daytona to give us our second different race winner. But it is, Francisco, a very tight battle for the points. We didn't see this too much last season because Kyle Benson was kind of walking away with it, kind of spread himself into his own group, and everybody else was just holding their own. But at this stage, as a race 5, it is very tight. As you can see, many drivers tied for points, and this could be crucial running for position, especially if this is the build-up that will ultimately lead to the playoffs.
And already, of course, this being race 5, I believe out of 17 or 18 or so that we have in the regular season, so it's gonna get there before you know it. And Forrester, obviously in that playoff grid, as you saw there, has 3 wins. He's solid, but he definitely has a solid points lead. Think about it. He has finished first and second, right?
Pretty much, yeah. He's got a very high average finish in the first couple of races.
Yeah, so that means he's definitely got a solid points lead, and he's doing great once again here tonight. So if nothing happens to him before this race is over, I would not doubt the possibility of him already having a commanding points lead, because there's been a lot of good drivers this season that have had great races, but there's no one that's really stuck out as sort of second best, if you will, to potentially challenge him. Not anyone specifically, that is. Maybe somebody one week, maybe somebody else a different week. So there has not really been a second person, if you will. It's not like Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin battle. It's just all Colin Forster at the top of the standings right now.
You want to guess what the average finishes and the stats for Colin Forster so far after the first 5 races, or 4 races rather?
I'm ready to hear it.
It is, well, we'll go with the average start. It is 6.75. That's his average start for each race. His average finish after 4 races is a staggering 1.5. That's the total.
Wow, astounding.
Well, we'll see what he can do on this restart. He lines up 5th. Austin Reedy, though, will be your leader off of staying out. And look at Brian Smith again, another full charge to 2nd. And now he's got a shot again at the race lead. It's been outstanding what we've seen out of the Furniture Row Machine as he looks to the quarter panel, Reedy.
And he has to check up there a little bit loose. He's going to get a chance once again to the inside of Austin Reedy. Passing Austin Reedy won't be easy, though. We know how Austin Reedy races. We know how aggressive he can be. Older tires or not, he's going to race you for it. Smith unable to get clear. Reedy making sure that high side is going to keep him out front.
And just like last time, it's an inside move for Smith, but although this time it's not necessarily successful, Smith just needs to build up this run and make a slide job effort, but it has not worked on Reedy just yet. They continue to remain side by side as Benson has pushed his way forward to 3rd, and they continue to fight for positions behind. Here's Dean Brummett underneath the 10 machine. I don't believe this is going to work as they maintain again. Even Reedy still holding strong with some of the oldest tires in the top 5.
Brummett trying to get in on this battle before the 78 gets ahead of the 1. That's the best thing he can do. Try and get by the 10, but you can see he's having the same issues as Brian M. Smith. But speaking of Smith, he takes the lead just as the caution comes out.
Caution flag waves again. We'll try to find the result of this impact or what might have happened here on this one. But again, very quick ones as we continue to try and find exactly where we can get a green flag run. We'll try to see if any one of these were the causes of the issue. You see right there, Cody Kinsey spinning around on his own merit. Not sure whether he had contact there with Schaefer. And Schaefer has had connectivity issues all night long. I think no, just Cody Kinsey got loose all by his lonesome and then went for the inside wall. Decided to take the toe. This might be night over for the 93, unfortunately, but that is indeed the cause of the yellow flag.
Unfortunate for him, but so that's happened. We've seen a lot of trouble here tonight, really, Kenneth. Just, it's been very hard for drivers to avoid incidents. I think only Dean Brummett has not been involved in an incident, because even Brian M. Smith has been involved in incidents.
And Brian M. Smith, we saw him collected in a couple last night, couple this evening, but obviously you can still see some of the lingering damage off his 78 race car. And many other drivers collected. Obviously, Benson looks like he has the cleanest race car of them all, but that's because he burned off the fast repair earlier tonight, so that's exactly why. Smith is one of the drivers that has not used his fast repair all night long. It's the same for Dean Brummett, who's kept a remarkably clean race car. Also, same thing for AJ Green, Colin Forster. Gotta give credit to these guys because at short tracks, you get very close to contact. There's such a small margin of error, like we talked about to open the show. And then when you get those kind of combinations mixed in together, it is hard to get to the end of a race, start to finish, without, one, burning a fast repair, but two, with a clean race car. It's hard to escape these races with a clean Chevrolet Camaro, Toyota Camry, or Ford Mustang. It's very hard to do so, so you got to give credit where credit is due, that these guys have been able to keep themselves mostly squeaky clean throughout this entire event. And coming to the final segment, they've got a nice job of keeping them, and probably the opportunity to keep that car stainless apart from some of the rubber.
As long as you can have a clean car, I mean, even a damaged car is going to be fast, but if you can keep that fast repair available to you for this part of the race, it is going to be very useful, because you don't really use the fast repair at Bristol unless you have required damage or if your engine's giving up on you. That, I think those are the only two instances you use a fast repair, because otherwise it's not really going to cost you that much time, and it at least keeps you in the race, which is really what it's going to be used for at a track like this.
And patient zero of this effect that's worked in nicely is Kyle Benson. He's in third right now. We saw him not too long ago with a completely torn up race car, burned a fast repair at the right time, and now he's got number one, a clean race car, but number two, a shot at the front of the field. This is going to be on, I believe, the inside of row number 2 when we come back to green flag racing, as Brian Smith will choose the outside line. Pretty familiar that we've seen out of Smith using this outside to his advantage to roll off as a control car, roll down the hill, especially on these tracks with higher banking. And we'll see if he can try to run away with the lead ahead of Austin Riddy, who does still have older tires. As many looking for the fresh tire power. That does include, obviously, guys like Dean Brummett, AJ Green, and Lounslogger, who did pit, and one of the most recent yellow flags. Pace car is going to make its way back down to pit road. Off turn 4, it's going to be the jump for Brian M. Smith that shoots him back to turn 1 in the race lead.
Smith with a solid jump, able to get ahead of Brummett, but Brummett, of course, is not going to give up. These two have been behind each other for almost the whole race. Whether it's been the 57 out front or the 78 out front. The 78 with the moment they're off turn 4, Brummett unable to capitalize, but he's right behind Smith.
And you gotta wonder when Dean Brummett makes this move, because we saw Brian Smith do it very methodically. How does Brummett take this one? Does he be more aggressive? Does he give the 78 a bump? At one point, does Brummett decide, hey, I'm close enough. Here's my chance to make a move for the race lead. As he ride on board with Smith, you can see that he continues to on the rear bumper, but again, they're gonna slow once more as the yellow flag comes out. You see heavy damage to the 29 of Nathan Mon to Curtis Kelly. Gotta imagine these two were involved, as Kelly had a clean race machine before this happened. So take a look at the replay. We'll try to see back at where these guys were at the state of caution. You see Kelly in this one, he's got a clean bumper, so you have to imagine he was involved, and it was issues up front. That is Craig Lounslogger with a big slam. You gotta imagine his race might be overdone as well.
Yeah, he disconnected, so that is the 13's race done for the day. And it looked like right here, tried to get as much power down as he could, trying to stay off the 99, gets into the inside wall, and the car drifts up into the racetrack. And of course, we've talked about this, Kenneth, when you hit that pit wall, the car goes up into the racetrack. And we've seen this in real life. We've seen it before with Danica Patrick. We've seen it with Tony Stewart. We've seen it with Denny Hamlin. We've seen it many times, over and over and over again, that if they hit that pit wall right there at the very end, you are ending up on the racing surface in turn 1, and someone is not going to be able to miss you.
That's exactly what happened there. CJ Munier with a very big hit to the front. Munier is still in this race with some significant damage as he goes down pit road. Ken MacArthur, Brandon Banks, they're also going to make trips down for service. But for Lounslogger, that is the end of his race tonight. A couple of drivers already have DNF'd, including obviously Cody Kinsey, like we mentioned earlier, Lance Hill, Brandon Gillis. Only drivers who have stayed out who are multiple laps down include Tony Kivitt, who's 123 laps down in 24th. He's down pit road. Logan Joyner, who's got a lot of damage, he's repairing it back in 22nd, 25 laps down. And Christopher Bishop, who is 8 laps down right now on the racetrack. And you can also count Nathan Mon in there as well, 4 laps down in P19. They're going to obviously jump on Lounslogger once Lounslogger continues to stay out for multiple laps DNF'd. But a very chaotic one in the later portion of this race. And we were talking about it under break, Francisco, to the point where we were looking at those first early green flag runs and just how different they are from how the race is figured out right now. And just to point to how quick things can change at a track like Bristol, and just how much the hands can go in your favor for one, but not go in your favor the next.
Yeah, that's how racing goes. It's the hand you're dealt. Sometimes it's a lot of good, sometimes it's a lot of bad, and the highs are good, the lows are worse. And you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes it's just a lot of good. We saw Kyle Larson earlier this year. He had, I believe it was 6 straight top 2 finishes, including 3 straight wins. So it can be really good, or it can be very, very, very painful and just never stop kicking you. And that's the thing with racing. It could be kicking you every single week, and then all it takes is just one event, one thing, and that can change it all. And For one driver, it might be here tonight, but it also might be next week or the one after that. And that's why we keep racing, because it might just be that next time out.
You never know what's gonna happen. That's the magic of things like sports, and especially racing in general, from how things different, how many things can change. You could be the most dominant driver in a race, lead every lap, but you can get passed on the last one and be still the first loser in P2. Although we haven't seen the finish yet of this one, and we don't know how it's gonna go with about 43 laps left in this one. Telemetry says in about 11 minutes we can end this race if we stay green. Brian Smith, though, your leader on row number 1. We're back under green as Brummett tries to fight off Allenshire for row 2.
And he is going to get that spot, and now it's a teammate mess there. All of these Stonk Motorsports cars are battling to try and get inside the top 5. Allenshire, green. There you see Forrester around the outside trying to see if he can get that spot. Bloom a little bit further behind, but Dean Brummett able to gain some ground on Brian M. Smith. We've seen Brummett be better on the older tires, but can he make a move on Brian M. Smith? Look how close he is to the back bumper of that 78.
He's gotten very close, but he has yet to duck underneath or on the outside to make a pass. It is still a full group on back of Stock Motorsports machines. Forrester has the best of green. Green made the switcheroo back down low. That's going to give the opportunity for Austin Bloom and Joby Ray to make a move on the outside. There's Austin Reedy to follow suit, but it is still rather close for the race lead. Less than an inch between these guys as Smith drags the outside wall.
And Smith, you can just see the rear is everywhere. He is trying to stay in front of Dean Brummett. He knows how fast this 57 is. He also knows that laps continue to wind down. Soon they're going to have to come down to pit road again. And the 57, having been the pole sitter of this race, Kenneth, in a really good spot, he wants to make sure he can keep this lead to try and give himself a chance at exiting pit road in the lead if it's necessary.
And remember, Brian M. Smith has done both. He's taken the lead on the racetrack and he's taken the lead down pit road. So he's been able to do both efficiently tonight, but Brummett has kind of been on the short end of the stick as a result of it, as he continues to be on the rear bumper. When does the 57 make a pass? And you can see the difference between the top 2 versus the rest of the field. Forrester has slipped into the last step of the podium, but you can see how far he's laid back from the top 2, who have all but separated themselves in their own categories of lap 190.
And the laps continuing to tick, and they're going to tick by quick now, Kenneth. Forrester finding himself into the top 3 at the end of the race. That is very normal of him. We're expecting of him to do that now. But look at Reedy with damage to the right side of his car. He is all over the place, battling the likes of Kyle Benson and Adam Allenshire, who has dropped back to that crew. They're on the backside of the top 10.
They're now about single file as Reedy was side by side there with Benson. And you can see there they have simmered down from 3rd on back. It is semi-battle there between Austin Bloom and Joby Ray, but they've also calmed that down. So I believe their motive right now is just to try and catch back up to the top 2, especially if we can stay green, because we're coming to the final 35 laps of this race, and it is far from over.
It is definitely far from over, especially with these two being so close. And of course, the threat of a caution at any time. And considering how long this run in of itself has been, we could see maybe some pit stops the next caution, because I really do think this race is not over just yet.
And you can see there, Brian Smith absolutely using 110% of his race car. He is going all out, but that does lose him a bit of time. A little bit of loose off the corner as well again. So that is going to bring back the 57 of Dean Brummett, and he's going to almost get to the inside. Going to tuck back in, not the space enough to make it.
Dean Brummett has been fast as these tires wear. Brian M. Smith with damage on his race car, fast. But it does hurt his long run, especially that right front. You see that right front crinkle right there? That's going to hurt the tire wear on that right front tire for the 78. And you can see Brummett is trying to pressure him into a mistake. He knows that he's going to get faster as this run continues, and he has to do something now, because if he doesn't, it might just invite Colin Forrester into this battle.
It could, and looking at the last time about, Colin Forrester was a little bit slower than the leaders, and this time he's a 10 faster than the top 2. So Forrester could very well be in the mix if Brummett and Smith continue to slow each other up. A little bit of a distance there between the 57 and the 78, but Smith continues to hold bound as they go for lap 200.
And don't be surprised if we see a little bit of wall tapping here in the last couple laps. You see Smith do it right there. Sometimes if you hit the wall just right enough, it actually speeds you up temporarily. It does not help the damage on your car. It does not help the tire wear, but it doesn't matter when it's 25 laps to go. And Brummett trying to go to the inside unable to make it work. He's sort of there, but he's not going to get the run on the exit with how loose he was. Brian M. Smith lives to fight another day, but watch, he's going to start using that wall a little bit to his advantage. He knows that that's how he's going to keep this lead very loose off the corner, but will Brummett put the bumper to him? He gets really close to the 78, tries to turn under him, side by side for the lead with 25 laps to go.
Brummett is leaving it all out on the track. He is now door-to-door even with Brian Smith as he gets way loose off the fourth corner, and they almost about wad it up as we come to 25 laps to go. Smith holding defensively on the outside lane as Brummett continues to try to attack. How much does Brummett continue until he gets tired of the inside lane?
It's going to get better for him as this continues, because the tires who are getting hurt is the 78 with the damage on his car, and if he keeps tapping the wall ever so slightly, that's going to hurt that right front. The 57's rear tires are what's going to hurt, but that's going to help him turn to try and get by the 78. The person who's benefiting most from this is the third place driver, Colin Forster. He wants them to keep battling like this. He's already gained half a second on them, but look at that. Dean Brummett almost clear off the corner, but Smith able to keep it in line.
They continue to tag back and forth for the race lead off the banking. The 57 has the advantage even at the start-finish line, but the 57 trying to go as Smith tags the outside wall. He's able to keep pace, and now he's going to strike it again, and almost around he goes. Dean Brummett to the race lead.
And Brian M. Smith hard into the wall, and he's going to get on his side.
Smith on his side. Do we continue as Joby Ray gets spun up in front? Caution away. Big hit by Brendan Banks. And there it is. Deservingly enough, after an absolute war of racing, we finally get it stopped. But it is Brian M. Smith who comes at the heaviest expense.
Yeah, and we might see him have to use a fast repair here. I mean, there's no point in keeping it in there at this point in the race, and we saw what happened. He was trying his best to keep the lead. He hit this wall, but I'm sure he hit it with intention. I'm not sure he hit this one with intention, because that's the one that really cost him that lead. He hit it in the middle of the corner trying to better his exit. He knew that he had to keep the track position, and it just didn't work.
And this is just trying all that you can. This is hard racing between the top two drivers. You see him smack the wall here. Helps to rotate, but it's right here. Car gets very tight. He smacks the outside wall, and then right about here, I guess, just trying to save the car, and also keep it out of trouble, mind you. He does not want to go back down the racetrack and collect anybody else innocently. But even then some, they continue to rack up in front. They get collected. It was Joby Ray that got hit. I'm not sure whether it was by either Benson or Reedy. It was Reedy this time around. There's Benson able to escape. And then here comes the sailing Brendan T. Banks. Hard hit. Adam Alishire also gets hit in as well. And what a big slam this was. Unfortunate for many of these top runners. Again, take a look at Joby Ray as this happens. Right in front of him with the 78, but he also ends up in trouble.
Yeah, it happened last night too. Lightning McQueen has made an appearance once again here.
And another wall ride like we did last night in the ARCA Series race. And you see everybody going down pit road. This most likely will be the most crucial pit stop, but Smith, despite all the issues, fast repair burn, car is out front again.
I wonder what his pit stop time was, because he lost track position there, so he must have done something different to try and gain some track position.
It was 9.1 seconds.
2 tires.
Brian M. Smith, 2-tire call, a fast repair burn. That burns off about 2 seconds while you're getting the 2 tires. And this is going to make things good once more, because if you thought it was amped up from here on, it's going to continue to ramp up as we are coming to the final 15 laps of this race. And you'll see it there. A couple drivers going down pit road for damage control. Nathan Mon, Christopher Bishop. They're going to be the next drivers to come down. They are lapped machines, so they will come down pit road. Look at that. As those drivers will hit pit road. We're going to try to look at the time there. And the difference, it was 14.3 for Brummett. So it's 2 tires versus 4 on this case. It is risky, but it could work. It has worked before here at Bristol, especially with the rotation of the car. But if you have a field of 4-tire, or pretty much a brigade, a 4-tire brigade coming at you, it could be a little daunting if you're the lonesome leader with half of the fresh tires on your race car.
but he does have a clean car now, so he doesn't have a disadvantage of a tire wearing excessively relative to the others. So he will have some improved pace with the long run. And when you have old tires on one side of your car, it does sort of stipulate into that long run field just because it's worn tires. It does not help you though on restarts and getting up to temperature because they're already hot, and it doesn't help the balance and getting the other tires up to temperature. 15 laps to go. Ryan M. Smith in the lead. He's going to launch right there. He has trouble getting going, but he's going to clear for the lead. A little bit of contact further by with Austin Bloom.
Little bit of an issue there as we approach 15 laps to go. This is the final segment of this race, and we can still get yellows to break this up, bring us into green-white checkered territory, but the focus lays on the top two. Brummett in the same position he was the last restart, trying to attack on the 78, but this time he does not have the run built. He is running out of time with 14 to go.
And now with the clean car, the 78 can go back to doing the wall tapping, and there's even less laps left, so less time for the damage of doing so being hurtful in his sense. But the 57 trying to go to the inside. Remember, better left side presumably on that car as we have a wreck in the back off of turn number 2, and that's going to bring out the yellow once again.
Couple of more cars involved. You saw Christopher Bishop get a faster pair, but it is a car around. That is the 22, I believe. It looked like the 22 for a moment. I think he got back to it straight. But Schaefer, I believe, got caught up in this one as he was battling with Tyler Murray. There's a contact to the outside wall. There's a hit with the 8s. And that is indeed the caution to come out.
See right here, you see Murray. And then there's Christopher Bishop right here. And the incident is going on right now. Right in front of him, you can see, and once again, into the inside wall, checking up, able to get stopped. So fortunate for him that he was able to get it stopped before going into the back bumper of that 8 machine.
Nice job by the 42 to keep it righted. And he'll go down pit road as a result, but Tyler Murray, an unfortunate evening, much like the ARCA race last night on Tuesday. So he's going to try to muster for what he can with a damaged Chevrolet Camaro in his Bass Pro Shops machine. But again, our heart rates continue to go up and down, up and down, up and down. We're on a roller coaster ride at Bristol, which I don't think you would probably say, because there are no roller coasters near this facility at all in real life or in the sim. So it is just an absolute duel between the top two right now. Gotta think they're the top 2 gladiators, and they are pulling out the big swords.
Gladiators they are, and how fitting at the last great Coliseum that we're getting an epic fight here in the closing stages of this race. And it's probably going to go down to the last lap, Kenneth, but I'd hate to see this battle get broken up by these yellows. You can tell Dean Brummett, with enough time, can put the challenge to the 78, but it's definitely going to be Brian M. Smith's to win if it comes down to 2 laps. The 57 just struggles too much on the bottom. Anybody else on the opposite lane of the leader is going to struggle just too much trying to put the power down, that they don't have enough time to make up the ground in just 2 laps.
So how desperate does Dean Brummett get? I mean, you also got to think in the case of Forster and these guys, they're also going to get more desperate for position. But if you're Dean Brummett, who has been behind Brian Smith for the final segment, how desperate do you get now that the laps are much slimmer than they used to be? Because you said there, with time, we know that Brummett can put the fight to Smith, but if the time is not there, what does Brummett do in replacement?
Well, Brummett has to try. It's going to be very difficult, but he has to try and anticipate when the 78 goes. The 78 goes rather early. He might use that to his advantage, but you have to try your best to notice when the 78 starts to lift off the ground. These cars, when they start to accelerate, they come off the ground just a little bit. When you notice that, when you hear anything, you have to try and at least get halfway on it. It serves you a better chance than being sure and trying not to go before him. Of course, in neither of these instances will you go before him, but at least throttling up a little bit will put you in a little bit more momentum so that when he does go, it's not a complete bog down for you immediately, and you can get up to speed a lot better. Maybe, in this case, stay on the outside of the 78. But it's very difficult, Kenneth. I've been in this situation, but it is definitely possible.
Well, it is a short track. You know what they say at short tracks. Rubbing is racing. You can give the bumper, you can give the shove. All is within realm especially if it's for checkered flag in the final laps. Back to green flag with 7 laps to go. Smith with a good start on the inside. What does Brummett do?
Brummett's cleared for second. Forster might have to battle for his teammate Austin Bloom for that 3rd spot. Right now, the top 2 battling for this win. The 57 way up the track does not get into the wall, but he's got to do something here in these closing laps if he wants to win this race.
Austin Bloom makes his way to 3rd as he continues to fight with Colin Forster. Yellow flag again displayed. And it's Austin Reedy with a completely crumbled race car. Not what you wanted to see out of the defending race winner, but he's the one involved in this recent caution, and that will, I believe, Francisco, bring us to a green-white checkered, if not an organic one, with 3 laps to go. Take a look at how this started, and I believe here it's contact with either one of the stock motorsports machines or Brendan Banks, or maybe just getting loose all by his lonesome, and indeed it was helped by AJ Green to send the 11 around.
Oh, and a near miss there for Schaefer. Several near misses there for several of the guys as he parked it up there, held onto the brakes, hoping that they can go both ways to avoid him. But it looked like he tried to come up off the corner, take that outside line, and the 48 was not going to give him that line. Felt like he had the run, and he goes into the back. And that sort of reminds me of the Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick incident at Homestead 11 years ago, doesn't it?
It kind of does. I remember being in the stands for that one, watching the exit off 4, and then Kevin Harvick gets right into Kyle Busch, and I remember Kyle Busch's car ended up in flames. Obviously, luckily that Kyle Busch was okay, and nothing serious came out of it, but it was some bad blood between the two, and definitely not an incident you want to see out of those 2 drivers who were just trying to end their season on the right note. The context, though, is way different here, obviously, because we have 2 drivers trying to go for the race win, and 2 drivers eager to be in their positions, especially given the context of how these 2 have been competing in full wide racing competition. Brian M. Smith, we've talked about him time and time again in this series. He's been a winner multiple times. He's won at a road course. He's won at a 1.5 miler. He's won at a super speedway. He's won at the large ovals. He's won at the short ovals. He's won at a lot of tracks in full wide racing history, and he has been the man to look after as one of the top competitors to win races week in and week out. And then you have Dean Brummett, a hungry driver who has yet to grab a checkered flag. We've seen Forster, he grabbed his first within the first race. Obviously, he got 2 more after, but he was a first-time winner. And then it was the same for Adam Alashar. He had won his first ever full wide racing event. So do we get another new winner, or do we get a repeating win in Brian M. Smith? And that's the question we've been trying to answer all night long, ever since probably about the halfway mark, Francisco. And now in the final 3 laps, this is going to be the answer we're going to find out.
Right now, the ball is definitely in the 78's park. He has the lead. No one is really unable to make a big enough gain in 2 laps to make back what he gains on the launch itself. So it's going to be very difficult for someone else to go for this win. The 78's 2-tire call may have just worked out. He went from being on his side with 20 laps to go to taking 2 tires, a fast repair, and winning this race. And I can tell you this, the 57 will not be happy. Not at the 78, but because of how he managed to lose this race off that little bit of ground that the 78 had on him on the exit of pit road. Remember, the battle for the lead off pit road was razor thin between those 2. So the 78 not only timed it perfect, he tried something, but it looks like right now he's in a position to make it work.
All right, so we'll rack up the top 10 back up for you. Brian Smith, your leader. Dean Brummett, the outside of row 1. Austin Bloom, Colin Forster to row 2. Kyle Benson, your top 5, with AJ Green, Adam Alashire, Brandon T. Banks, Michael Newbraw, and Tyler Werner to your top 10. Could this be the final restart as they cross the line? It'll be 2 laps to go from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. Smith in control with Brummett trying to charge.
Now's the time for Brummett to do anything to go for this race win. He doesn't have ground right now. Brian M. Smith has at least 2 car lengths on him, and the caution comes out before the white flag.
Caution flag waves. We'll have an official attempt at a green-white checkered. It is Michael Newbraw, who was in the top 10 on the restart. He's involved in peril, in big trouble to the front straightaway, and it was a semi-large collection here, Francisco. Ken MacArthur was caught up in this as well. Gonna see if the 5 of Joey Ray was also in this. CJ Munier's in this pack. Right there, they collect each other. Ray does get contact. He does collect another car in Tyler Murray. The 97 and the 56 go for a wild ride. And this is just it. Talked about it a little bit earlier, Francisco. The desperation, trying to get as many positions as you can, trying to run as hard as you can in the final 3 or so laps. And here, just got the betterment of a lot of these guys, and they get more damage.
Yeah, and this is definitely where frustration sits when your guys further towards the front of the field. You see the yellow flag come out, and it's guys further back in the field battling each other for the last couple of positions. They all matter, of course, but it's definitely frustrating when you know that the last couple of cars on the racetrack are the ones driving into each other, preventing the race from ending.
We have gotten so close to our race ending at this point, and we are still very close, as obviously, for the moment, nobody's going to hit pit road. It's going to be too risky of a call on the final 3 laps of this race, and we will indeed have ourselves an attempt at a green-white checkered. I believe the last restart counted as our first attempt just because of how long the caution lasted. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, Francisco. However, I believe this is going to be our second attempt at a green-white checkered, and we'll go up to 3 until we can finally call a winner. Yes,
this is the second attempt at a green-white checkered. I believe by 2 laps is why the first one was deemed the first green-white checkered, as the restart lap itself, the 2 to go mark, was lap 226, which is 1 lap over our scheduled distance. So right now at this rate, kind of depending how long these cautions last, we won't be too short of the amount of laps we ended up running last season.
Yeah, maybe about the same. If we continue to get yellows, we could be on the way to lap 250. If we're scheduled to finish now, if the restart ends up to the checkered flag, we'll have at least about 200, I'd say 233, 234 laps completed. And of course, if we add another attempt, then we may end up with more, about 240s, maybe up to 250, where they were initially scheduling this race to be. But because we're already on the second attempt, here's what we're going to do. We're going to restart the field again. 2 laps to go is when they're across the start-finish line to the green flag. We'll try to get a lap in, try to get to the white flag, and go for the checkered. If they do not get to the white like they did last time before yellow comes out, then we will rack them up and do it all over again. And if we do it all over again, that'll be our final time. If a caution comes out and we cannot go to the white, then the field will be frozen. A winner will be chosen based on whoever is in first. However, if we are able to complete it and we do get to the white flag, no matter what happens, the race will finish under racing circumstances. So the entire field can crash, and we'll stay green. Whoever comes out on top will win this race. It is looking to be Brian M. Smith's first win of this campaign in the 4Wide Racing Cup Series after winning last night. Dean Brummett still looking for his first, Forster looking for his fourth, and mostly everybody else either looking for a repeat win or their very first. Got a lot of first-timers possibly in this group, but it all depends on what happens between the guys who have been absolutely sailing through the first row. Pace car comes down. Second attempt at our green-white checkered is underway. Smith, Laggy restarted. They're even to the start-finish line as they come back to turn 1.
And you can see that coming from a mile away. Brummett was really high up on the racetrack to angle the corner, and the yellow's out. Who was in the lead?
It looks like Dean Brummett is your race leader as he got the outside rolling. And we'll try to find exactly where the yellow flag ended up. I believe it was the 22 of Eric Schaefer. And we saw him a little bit loose off the exit of turn 2, so that might have been him. We'll try to take a look at the replay, and indeed it was 22 in trouble on this restart. You'll take a look at it. Field is doubled up, seems to be okay. Off turn 4, this would be the grab up through the gears. And back to green flag racing. Kind of a bit of a stack up there. He got hit by Tyler Murray on the initial stack up. That's when he went around. Some of the connection issues there, saving him from being collected with more cars, but he ends up spinning. His slow pace is exactly what brings out the yellow, and of course, iRacing constitutes a slow car and pretty much a car to dead stop to be a yellow flag holder. But that means Dean Brummett, Francisco, is your race leader off the pass.
So, Kenneth, I'm looking back at the restart now. Smith waited so long into the zone to try and go that the green flag was out. So that meant everybody got an equal opportunity to mash the gas instead of trying to wait for the 78 to be the first one to go. That being an equal start, the outside will always have the advantage. So Dean Brummett was able to get a good enough launch, held off enough through 1 and 2, and now he gets to control this race on the last green-white checkered. So this could be a pivotal moment to decide who wins this race. That might have been Brian M. Smith's chance at the win done.
Well, it's definitely not over yet, but I think Brummett in this case narrowly escaped a penalty there, because in iRacing, if you do pass a control car or if you pass anyone on the outside lane before you get to the start finish line on a restart, then you will be penalized, you will be black flagged. Actually, no, I believe it's the inside you make a pass.
Yeah.
That you do get black flagged. So I think Brummett narrowly escaped it. If he was on the bottom side of the racetrack, he would have been in deep trouble. But luckily for him, Smith was not on the outside of the racetrack. He was on the inside on the restart. So that does give Brummett the legal race lead. And we'll see what line Brummett does here, as we should get one to green. Actually, we'll go one more time around. Lights are still on in the pace car. So like you said, Francisco, this is indeed our final attempt at a green-white checkered. If we get a yellow, this race is official.
Yeah, and going back to that restart as well, Kenneth, like I said, the 78 waited so long that the green was out. Once the green lights come on, that means everybody can go. You do not get a penalty for passing, for staying in your lane and passing people if the green is out. So let's say the 78 were to sit there and everybody on the inside line does not go and everybody on the outside does, that won't be a penalty. If everybody on the inside lane goes and the outside doesn't, because the green lights are out, they wouldn't get a penalty either. They can't pass someone in their same lane, I believe, and on the inside line of their same lane and get away with that. That, I believe, is how that penalty sort of works out. Nobody obviously took it 3 wide to try and make any moves, so I believe nobody in the field was caught with that.
So luckily no penalties issued, and luckily for our top two, they do not get dashed by a penalty. Here's the restart. Brummett does choose the outside lane, so he'll have the option to bring us back to green. This is our final green-white checkered. So this is our final attempt to get to the white flag and the checkered under green flag circumstances. Pace car coming down to the pit road. Probably the final time. Brummett with a decent start. We're back under green.
And you can see he was doing the same thing that he tried on the last restart. He went very close to the wall, angle the corner to where he can go straight as possible, going down the back straightaway. And look at Brian M. Smith. He's not going to give up. He's trying to see if he can get close to the back bumper of the 57, wrecking on the front straightaway as the leaders take the white.
They take the white flag. It does not matter. We will go to the checker. Top two as a battle to 3 and 4. Smith with the latch ditch effort, but it does not work. First time winner Dean Brummett crosses the start finish line. And after a dominant race all night long, Brummett steals it from Bristol.
And you got to give credit to Brian M. Smith. He really tried, and he made the dive bomb into turn 3. Didn't try to slide up the racetrack. Thought he could make the bottom work, but unfortunately not enough for him. And he is going to celebrate a win here for the first time, being your race winner, Dean Brummett.
We talked to him as a top 3 finishing driver last night, but he can call himself a 4-wide racing winner, as he'll wait for everybody, come for the banking, head back for the start finish line. I think a couple other drivers are already waiting to join him on the celebration. Brummett, a first-time winner after absolutely going all out with Brian M. Smith for the race victory. Brummett with the last pass before the last restart gets to sail across, gets to hold on, and finally gets the win. You can see him burning it down on the front straightaway. Many other drivers willing to... You see Brian M. Smith giving the courtesy, celebrating with him. What a drive those two put on all night long to go for the end. Regardless of the situation, you can definitely credit both of these guys for bringing it all here on the track at Bristol. And the 57 will come to a dead stop, and he will soak it all in. Your winner tonight from Bristol.
And that means that we have our third first-time winner this season, Kenneth. We've had Colin Forster get his first win at the start of the season. We had Adam Alishire get his first win last week at the Daytona International Speedway. And now the 57 of Dean Brummett gets his first win. And more importantly, that means that ends the streak for Stonk Motorsports. This is the first time this season that team has not won a race.
That is true. So Stonk Motorsports' streak of 4 race wins in a row will come to an end, but like you said, the first time winner streak continues. All of the winners so far this season have never been winners before in any previous four-wide racing season. We had Adam Alshire take away his first win at Daytona. Colin Forster sweeping the first three, but he had never won before that, or before Auto Club in the first race. And now we end up with Dean Brummett as the heavy favorite, winning, coming off the ARCA race, and he ends up taking it all from Bristol. We'll take a look at your full field results in just a moment, but we'll take a break. We'll come back with post-race coverage here on MaxSpeedTV. We'll get interviews with all the top 3 finishers and more as we go to Pocono Mountains next Wednesday night. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this.
We've been waiting for this moment. Generations of innovation all coming together in one place. A pedigree of more than 70 years of NASCAR Cup Series history, from the past to the present, from Petty to Earnhardt to Elliott. Today, there's no more waiting. The future of NASCAR is now. Drive the next-gen cars today on iRacing and step into the next generation of racing.
Dean Brummett stopped at the start-finish line, continues to celebrate his first ever four-wide racing Cup Series victory after stealing it on the last couple of restarts and holding off on Brian M. Smith. Here's a look at your full field race results. Of course, Brummett, your first-time winner. Brian M. Smith able to hold on for second. Colin Forster, nice charge for him. He's going to keep up his average finish streak. He's going to end up in third with AJ Green and Austin Bloom to follow in from fifth. Those are all stock motorsports machines lining up the top 5. Brandon T. Banks will be back to 6. Adam Alshire will rebound for 7th. CJ Monier, a couple of hard hits, but he ends up surviving for 8th. Michael Newbraw and Tyler Werner will cap off your top 10, Francisco.
Yeah, we see it in the 11th position, the 11 of Austin Reedy, who was part of that last lap crash. We'll see if we can get one look at that before we depart for the night. Ken MacArthur finishing in the 12th position, Curtis Kelly in 13th, Tyler Murray finishing 14th, Nathan Mon and Kyle Benson 15th and 16th respectively. These guys were all involved in that last lap crash. Eric Schaefer finishing one lap down in the 17th position. Christopher Bishop struggling all night but avoided several wrecks late to keep up this top 20 finish. Joby Ray finishing in 19th. Craig Lonsonger, the first of those that weren't here at the end of the race, finishing in the 20th position. And as you see, the final 4 drivers in the field are going to be the Cody Kinsey machine finishing 21st. There you see Logan Joyner in his first race back finishing in the 22nd position. Lance Hill in the 23rd. Tony Kivitt in 24th. And Brandon Gillis rounds out the field after early troubles for him.
So those are all the 25 drivers to finish, and we'll look at this replay. This is the moment of the race right here where Brummett had taken the lead, and it was the final restart that set it all into stone. You'll see the pace car come off. Brummett had been doing this early start all night long, and it came to work out in his favor. We're going to try to see what happened behind them. There was a wreck that happened on the white flag as we were taking part in taking attention to those top 2. Things got very squirrely there, and I think it was right here. Ken MacArthur got loose, got into Michael Newbraw, who survived, and Tyler Murray gets in a collection here. Eric Schaefer, Curtis Kelly, They all get into that one as well. Late race drama there. But it was Dean Brummett at the end of it all to secure his very first 4-wide racing victory. And it'll be our time to take a moment to talk with the driver who ends up winning for the first time, Dean Brummett from Bristol Motor Speedway and Victory Lane. And Dean, we had talked to you last night, a top 3 finisher in the ARCA Series race. Very happy with your performance in that one. But it was a steal, an absolute steal after being the dominant driver, 144 laps led. I mean, simply put, how does it feel to finally get a first ever 4-wide racing win?
Man, I've been doing this for a few months now with 4-wide, just trying to go through and, get a few races in here and there. And, just right now, I'll be 100% honest with you guys, between last night and tonight, I'm actually out of work right now in some in COVID protocols, awaiting test results. So while I'm not exactly feeling the greatest, it definitely feels good to come out here and pull a win off at my favorite track.
Walk us through the final segment of this race, Dean, because I know that you had obviously led the most laps. You were in a state of dominance early on, but it was mostly the kind of tag along between yourself and Brian M. Smith. Walk us through how that was in the final at least 50 laps of this race, because I know that must have been intense.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. It's always frustrating when you feel like you've got the better car, the faster car. Brian had a lot of damage for a lot of this race. He was smart and saved his fast repair till the very end. And it's frustrating to know that you've got the speed and everybody behind you can't keep it together long enough to keep the caution flag from coming out right about the time you get into your rhythm. And just kind of lucked up there towards the end. Got some green flag laps with about 40 or 30 to go, and really was putting the pressure on Brian working to the inside. That's super hard to do here at Bristol, and managed to just get just enough of what I needed to make him make a mistake. He got into the outside wall, and big caution comes out. I think I've got it in the bag, and when we hit pit road, he was in just enough good of a position where he could use that fast repair, and he took 2 tires. And when he took those 2, I mean, track position's king here, especially if you can get that high line rolling. And never thought that there'd be anything different on those restarts. I was just sitting there looking out my left side, my left side window here, waiting and waiting for the restarts. And that last one, or that next to last one, he just went a little later than he did. And I don't know if he spun the tires or if I went early or what, but just something happened, and was able to get my nose out in front. Caution came out, and I said, well, I'm gonna have 2 laps to do this thing. I better get the restart of my life right here. And that's what we did.
You certainly did. That steal, I think that pass on the outside certainly made things a lot better. Put you right back in that position after chasing Smith for a while. I want to ask this, because out of all the drivers in this race, only a handful did not burn the fast repair, and many of them had very clean cars. You're one of them as the race winner. So what's the key to keeping a clean car at a track like Bristol?
Man, there's nothing like there's nothing like clean air and stepping away from everybody. I know at one point in the race I had 4 or 5 second lead, was still battling there with a bunch of the lap cars, came real close to getting involved in 2 of the lap cars coming together. But just the patience here, man. I mean, this track, even though it's a half mile, and you've heard every analogy from fighter jets in a gymnasium to this and that. It still races like any other racetrack. You just got to go out there, give it your best, hit your marks. And that's just what we did tonight, man. Was able to go through, win the pole, put down a pretty decent lap. I left a little bit out there on track with qualifying, but like I said, just did what needed to be done tonight. And like I said, I'm proud to bring this one home right now.
Well, you handled it and took care of business. Francisco mentioned on the break before we got to post-race coverage that you had 0x for this entire race. So I think that can be a feat at a track like Bristol, where it seems that contact is pretty much imminent. But before we let the series ship off to the Pocono Mountains next Wednesday, with your win here tonight, who are the people you want to thank for making this all possible? Any teams, sponsors, or just anybody else you just like to give the love and shout-outs to?
Man, I've got so many people to thank. The same ones I thanked last night. Didn't have the paint on the cars, but want to thank Roel Smith Racing for going through and just giving me the opportunity to race with a bunch of guys. Awesome guys who've taught me a lot of stuff over the time. definitely want to thank my sponsors here. Have some great people on board. Scott Wallace over at Sweeper One Carpet Cleaning, Karen Hutchinson out at Eastern Roof Technologies, and Marvin Biddix, Remax Select Agent. These guys are all based out of the Lake Norman area. So if you or anybody else that you may know is in the Lake Norman area, you need any type of carpet cleaning services, you need any type of residential roofing taken care of, you're looking to buy or sell a house, I've got people who can, you can take a look over this car. We can find just some people to get it taken care of. And man, just an awesome group of people to have on this card. So proud to take them to victory lane for everything that they've gone through and given me the opportunity with.
You became the best gladiator to get to hold the virtual sword here at Bristol. Congratulations, Dean. Hopefully you're feeling a lot better physically, but I know hopefully this win can make it all feel better. Congratulations once again, and we look forward to seeing you hopefully work the track in the Tricky Triangle next Wednesday.
Hey, well, we thank you guys. You all have yourself a great evening, and it's Bristol, baby.
Dean Brummett, your winner here tonight from Bristol. First ever win in 4-wide competition. What a way to do it for the first time ever, and competing against one of the best in this series, Francisco, the driver who ends up just short of the race victory, but one that did put on a show. Nonetheless, you're caught up with the 78 of Brian M. Smith.
Well, Brian, with about 20 laps to go, you're on your side next to the wall, and then 1 second later, you're in the lead once again on an alternative strategy after pulling the faster pair. What were your thoughts going through those overtime restarts, and what do you think you needed to do differently to try and win this race?
Oh man, I think I just blew it on 2 tires. I spun them before the line on the second green-white checkered. Felt like I was driving on ice, but I felt like if I got out front and I was able to keep the nose clean, I'd be able to be okay. But as soon as Dean got around me, he kind of left me in the dust.
Yeah, we also saw that there was a lot of wrecks in the second half of this race, and that's what allowed you also to keep that track position. What was your mindset going through those last couple of laps, knowing that yellows were coming out, and when did you decide was the right time to come down pit road and put some tires on before you get dusted by someone who eventually does? Like, I imagine that's very difficult to be in that situation when there's continuous yellows and you have limited tire sets, wondering when to put them on. So how was that like in the second half of the race?
Oh, it absolutely was. You want to get the track position. Obviously, I had the faster pair saved until the last pit stop as designed, and I needed it then because my car was on its door for pretty much the whole entire front stretch there when I got in the wall. So, pit strategy is all about gaining that track position, and that's why I took 2. But, solid day considering we had a few bumps in the road. But, Dean was on rails, and he deserved the win. I thought maybe I could give him a bump coming out of 4 if I got there, but I didn't. Still being able to enjoy, sniffing the win there. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a great weekend from you. Not the win today, but a first and a second at the last great Coliseum in the last 2 days, which is good nonetheless. And there's a lot of people that make that happen. So we'll give you the floor here so you can give your shout outs to those people.
I just had a lot of fun racing with Dean tonight, and for the most part, everybody out in the field did a really good job. We had some green flag runs in, and it was a blast. So thanks to my teammates for racing. Thanks to everyone for racing clean out there tonight. And thanks to you guys for broadcasting. It was a lot of fun.
We always appreciate you taking the time with us, Brian, and we wish you luck going into Pocono next Wednesday. I hope you do bring me a birthday cake. I would very much like that while I'm up here in the booth.
I'll try my best, and hopefully I'll be able to talk to you that night.
Yeah, once again, good luck next week, Brian.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, first of all, I think if anyone's going to get a cake, it's going to be us here at MaxSpeedTV. We can have the drivers celebrate, of course, but I think we're going to have to supply the cake nonetheless. But Brian M. Smith, what an effort by him. The duel between himself and Dean Brummett, I think, is going to be a highlight for this series in many times to come, and he ends up in P2 from Bristol. We'll take to the driver who finishes P3 and continues the streak of average finishes, Colin Forster in the 99. Colin, the last step of the podium here tonight, just a couple of while back before we even got to the end of this race, we were talking about the average finish that you had, and you have a total of 1.5 with the 3 wins, with the finish and the podium finish over at Daytona, and you're able to nab a 3rd place finish here at Bristol. Walk us through how you're able to do it tonight.
It was definitely a very difficult race, just avoiding all the chaos. I was just able to keep my car clean the whole race. It was just stable. I wasn't as fast as the 57 and the 78, but I knew I could be a third place car. I was definitely not good on long runs though. But luckily we didn't have any super long runs. We got a good like 50 lap run there earlier in the race, but it's definitely chaos out there, but Bristol usually is. It was a fun race though.
I think a lot of drivers can say the same, but Colin, going into this one, I know it was expected to be 250 laps. It was expected to be a night race under lights. We were expecting, obviously, a lower track temperature as a result, but it changes. The race gets shortened, although we run 239 here tonight. And then, obviously, we run in the daytime, which brings us triple digits in track temperature. Were there any big challenges that happened, especially with the tire wear in this case, depending on how slick the track could have been tonight?
Actually, the car was like really tight, especially on the long runs. You would think it's loose since the track's a little slicker out there, but it is definitely a lot tighter. Unless you're on the bottom and then you start sliding up the track and then it gets loose on the exit of the corner, but it was definitely tight on the long runs. That's, like I said, where I was struggling the most. It's so hard not to bounce it off the wall here, but sometimes bouncing off the wall here is faster. It seems like a lot of times, actually, it's a lot faster. So, I didn't want to do that because I feel like that's almost cheating, just bouncing it off the wall to catch them. But I tried not to bounce it off the wall. I did sometimes, just the car wouldn't turn. But yeah.
Nonetheless, I think a very solid race in your camp, and especially the guys at Stock Motorsports who were able to kind of lock out the rest of the top five. You, AJ Green, and Austin Bloom all the way back to the 5th position. But before we let you go and before we can try to expect something at Pocono next Wednesday, anybody you want to thank for making this all possible? Any teams, sponsors, or just anybody else?
Thank you to Circle B Diecast and Plan B Sales for sponsoring us. Thank you to everyone in this league for having me. Thanks to my teammates. We had a great run tonight. Most of us did, except for Lance. Shout out to you guys doing the broadcast. I'm about to go watch it right after we get done talking.
Well, we certainly appreciate it, Colin. A big congratulations on your finish. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us, and I guess you can pump it up with your Daniel Suarez paint scheme up to Pocono with that high average finish. Congratulations once again.
All right, thank you, sir.
Colin Forster able to man it to 3rd in stunning fashion with the rest of his team following behind him. Francisco, I think this race, top to bottom, it was one that many could have expected, but also probably didn't expect. A lot of yellows in this race for sure, but that final segment, Brian Smith, Dean Brummett going at it lap after lap after lap, the yellows that would change the strategy call, the fact that we saw Smith riding the outside fence and then coming back out on pit road with the race lead, and even the steal on the second to last restart before it all ended. What a race here at Bristol.
Yeah, Bristol always manages to deliver great races, and you have to sit through all the cautions to get to the great racing. And of course, in due time, we were able to see that in the closing laps of the race. A fantastic battle for the lead, a fantastic battle for the win between two great drivers. One very experienced, Brian M. Smith. He has 7K oval I rating. That's up there with the likes of Parker White. And he was battling somebody who was trying to get their first win, and ultimately it was the 57 of Dean Brummett who was able to come out on top and get his first win, and that's a great feeling. And what a better place to get your first win than at Bristol. You heard him there in his interview. He said, it's Bristol, baby. There's nothing like it. And now we go from a very small racetrack at Bristol to one of the larger tracks on the schedule at Pocono next week. The ARCA series will be going to the Legacy Pocono with all the bumpy parts of the racetrack next Tuesday at 9 o'clock on KBRN, and we'll be here next week on MaxSpeedTV also at 9 o'clock on the newer Pocono Raceway. And since Brian M. Smith isn't allowed to bring me it, I guess you might want to bring me the birthday cake.
We could be on that, make the plan for next week. But insane, you can see the race schedule for the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series. Obviously have our first 5 races under wraps. Pocono is next, August 25th. That'll be 9-10 p.m. Eastern here on MaxSpeedTV. We'll take a week break off from then on. Return back on September 8th with racing from the track too tough to tame, the Darlington Raceway. Before we get to our first road course at Watkins Glen, that'll be fun, and you can see all the rest before we get to our regular season finale on November 17th at Daytona. And then, of course, start the round of 10, head for the Championship 5 over at at Atlanta. But what a night it was here from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway for everybody at the 4-Wide Racing League that makes this all happen. The rest of the race council, along with league owner Tyler Murray, and as a part of all of us at MaxSpeedTV, and for my colleague in the booth, Francisco Bacalhau, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying so long, good night from the Last Great Coliseum. Congratulations to first-time winner Dean Brummett in the 57. We'll catch you next Wednesday from the Pocono Mountains and the Tricky Triangle.